There we go. Okay. No longer mute. Happy no sound day. Yep. Well, you got sound now. Espresso. Express espresso. Express espresso. Happy Tuesday. Okay. And welcome into the TikTok crowd who are filing in. Okay. Let me get my my display kind of configured here, and then I can start taking guests. Oh, okay. Yeah, give me a second, Lee. Give me 1 second. Okay, we got that going. Now, why is that partially cut off? So that's not there. But then we've got TikTok chat. Where is that? Okay, there. Oh, that's why. Okay. I'm going to move this over. Okay. And that partially got off, right? Okay. Okay, good deal. All right. Hope everyone's having a good Tuesday. All right, so I think I got everything set up. We've got YouTube chat there. We've got TikTok chat not. Oh, wait. Let's skip ahead. There we go. All right, we got TikTok chat showing. We got YouTube chat showing where it wants to be. Okay. Quick coffee. Yeah. All right. So if you are a Christian, a Muslim, or a Jew, please request up and we can talk. What's your best evidence that God is real? And you have to be at least 18. And the problem with that, Bruce, is that now you have verified every religion out there, because every religion prays to their God. Every religion claims that their God delivered for them. So how's that evidence when every religion can claim the same thing? All right. Well, 1010, request up and we can talk about it, but you're going to have to give evidence first of how you know your God is real. We'll do Serial Unaliver. Request up and we can talk about it. Jay Lage, good day. All right, let's take our first guest. How's it going, Lee?
Doing good, my man. Can't complain. How about you?
Oh, pretty good. Are you at least 18?
I am. I
All
wish I
right.
was 18, but I'm a bit older.
Okay, you're a bit older than 18. Sounds good. And you said you're Muslim?
I am, alhamdulillah.
Okay. What's your best evidence that God is real?
Before I'll give it a go, I would love to, just as 101 said, what's your standard measurement of something that exists, that can't really be touched, measured, felt, or anything like that, such as good and evil, the term of having a soul? How do you...
Empirical evidence. I mean, like we have,
exactly.
you can't touch consciousness. You can't touch thoughts, but we know they exist, right? So,
Agree.
yeah. All right. So what's your evidence that God is real?
My evidence for God is real is the easiest way to explain it is the fine-tuned world that we live in, and the fine-tuned galaxy that we live in, aka the Milky Way. Did you know that the Earth's rotation by itself, whenever it gets day and night,
Mm-hmm.
if that stopped for a split second, many scientists have found out that we will be in a new ice age
Okay.
a minute after. So my point was, I believe that, I truly believe, if you look out the window or just in nature general, you'll find a determined rule set, and that kind of shows us there is a more intelligent designer behind it.
Okay.
How do you feel about my statement?
All right. So I disagree. And what's your evidence of that? I mean, you're saying I feel like there is, but that doesn't really. But feelings aren't
No,
evidence, right?
I get that. The thing I want to at least agree on, that the galaxy that we live in is fine tuned. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah. And so for the second argument, let's just grant it. So let's just say the constants appear exquisitely calibrated for life. So let's just assume that's true. Now, does fine tuning logically require intentional design?
I will say so.
You would say so? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And so if that's the case, now we observe a life permitting universe, right? And so if that's the case, there are like multiple logically equivalent explanations. So how did you, like, for example, just brute necessity, right? That could be a possibility.
Go ahead. Did you say brute?
Brute.
Repeat that one more time.
Brute necessity.
Like brute necessity. I know what brute means.
Necessity? Like, so the constants could not have been otherwise. So that'd be an option,
I got it.
Right? That would be a possibility. Or would you grant that it's a possibility?
No, because everything tells me, whenever I reflect upon all of this, that there is a more intelligent, superior designer that created the rule set that both science and nature and biology follows.
How did you determine that it's not brute necessity and it's intelligent design? Like, how did you rule out brute necessity? How did you rule out brute necessity?
You have to explain me what brute necessity is one more time.
That the constants that you're talking about, the fine-tuning constants, just could not have been otherwise. That they are what they are. They couldn't have been any other way, otherwise. That they just are what they are.
Okay, but that doesn't really say that brute necessity is the truth or the way it came about.
I didn't say that. I just said it's a possibility. So I'm asking how you ruled it out. Like, what method did you use to rule it out?
With all due respect, I would say common logic, as I just mentioned.
Through logic?
I could give you an example. Yes, I'll give you an example. Everything in science and biology, even insect anatomically, shows us that a bumblebee shouldn't be able to fly. Its weight to wing size ratio is unbalanced. But still, I see bumblebee here and there fly. How would you explain that then?
Well, I'm not an entomologist, so I mean, I'm sure there's an explanation for it. But But
they don't have explanation.
They don't. So if we went to,
you can.
Okay.
You can please fact check me.
All right. So
if scientists told you we don't know how bumblebees are able to fly, the wing size ratio to the weight, it shouldn't be able to fly. What would you think then?
Okay, well, let's check it out.
Please do that, brother.
Okay, so, well, this says here, according to etymologists, they use high amplitude wing strokes, and that move in an 8-figure pattern, and it creates a vortex generation that makes up for their weight. So they have an explanation.
Okay, that's interesting because
it says it right here.
Sure,
it's like,
I'm pretty sure that there's a consensus behind scientists that agree. Most of them would say it doesn't. It's almost a scientific fallacy for the bumblebee to fly on its own.
Yeah, Dickinson published a study 2005 in the journal Proceedings in the National Academy of Sciences on the flight of the bumblebee after gathering data using high-speed photography of actual flying bees and force sensors on a larger-than-life robotic bee flapping around in mineral oil. He says the big misconception about insect flight and perhaps what tripped up Magnan is the belief that bumblebees flap their wings up and down. So they flap them back and forth, and so it's the way they do it. That's how it's explained. So
Interesting.
yeah,
Because
so there's an explanation for
as I
that.
just told you, there's an explanation. I believe there's an explanation for anything, but as I just told you, I've read
Well, it's a
Cambridge.
study. Yeah, it's a scientific study.
Yeah,
So
I read a Cambridge study that where multiple scientists came together and concluded that it shouldn't be able to fly.
okay,
The way it do fly though is something else, but
okay?
it
Do you
should
have
be
the
able to
study?
fly.
I cited the study here. It's Dickinson 2005. So what study do you have that says they shouldn't be able to fly?
You should be able to type in Cambridge and bumblebee study.
Okay.
Then it should be come out.
All right. Let's see.
And if you don't mind,
there's
a
vomiting
man
bumblebee. There's actually multiple for under that. So
that's probably true, but I can't lie. I don't know which one
it
that I
doesn't.
read. I don't even know the title of it. But there was a report that said multiple scientists came together and concluded that with all the research that they did, a bumblebee shouldn't be able to fly, even though it does. They couldn't explain it. And I understand earlier just mentioned about the 8-figure wavering makes a vortex, and vortex is it has
it's
an
on
uplift,
Snopes.
a natural uplift.
So it's on Snopes, and it was this is like a rumor. It says false. So scientists having proved that bumblebee cannot fly. Like that's urban folklore. So not sure where you read that, but that doesn't say anything. It's not anywhere on Cambridge.
My bad. The last thing I wanted to do is misinformation. So please forgive me for that.
That's fair.
But I would say
yeah, and you just can't find the study. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It doesn't mean you can't. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means you can't find it. That's all. But
I'm sorry. Yeah, forgive me for that.
No worries. It's just. But I did see here that they have an explanation. It's so they have an explanation for why. It's just the way they flap their wings, and it makes up for the weight difference. Yeah. So if that's
would you say,
well, so let's kind of go back to what you were saying. So about the. Because like I was trying the fine tuning, and I was trying to establish how you ruled out brute necessity. Like what method did you use to rule out brute necessity?
So far, how I understood the term brute necessity, it only explains that there's always another option. Am I right?
Yeah, like there's like multiple. We can do multiple explanations for why the constants are here. So I'm just trying to figure out how you ruled them all out and then settled on, therefore God created everything.
Okay. You mind if I gave you an analogy of how I believe this life's journey is? And then I can come to my point if you don't mind later.
Yeah, sure.
Appreciate it. Let's say you found a book on your bookshelf. You seem like an intelligent man. One thing, there's a brother named Hans. Do you mind? English is my third language. I believe he's a Muslim brother as well. Would you mind putting him up as well?
Yeah, if I can put up an ex-Muslim, that's fine. Who is it? Hans?
Put up a what?
I'm gonna put up my friend who's an ex-Muslim, and then we can go over this.
No
together.
worries. You can do that.
All right. So you said Hans?
Yes, please.
All right. So we'll bring Hans up, and then we'll bring M's up.
Okay, and let me know when I can continue with my point.
Yeah, sure.
Hans, are you a Muslim brother?
I am. Yeah.
All right.
MashaAllah.
Okay. So now you said you wanted to explain something real quick related to fine tuning.
Yeah, yes, I have an analogy if you don't mind. Hans, give me a second, brother. I just have a short analogy for him. You do believe that in this world there's absolute evil and absolute good things as well. Am I right?
I wouldn't quite characterize it that way, but let's just say for argument's sake, yeah, I agree.
Okay, how would you then characterize it, just to understand?
Well, I would say that I think there's things that harm and things that don't harm, and so most harmful things are, you would probably categorize as evil, and
Okay.
like harmful things, yeah.
Can I add to
And then
that?
there's good.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
What is good and what is wrong? What's bad? You said that there's something that harms.
Well, are you
but if
adding or are
something
you
harms,
asking?
that doesn't necessarily mean bad.
Yeah, are you adding or are you asking? You're asking? Okay. So what is good?
Yeah.
That which is favorable to
you
people.
You said
that which
harm,
that,
and then
that
you said
which find
good. Those
hold
two.
on. I'm trying to answer your question. That which people find favorable. And then something that's harmful.
If I'm okay,
is that something that causes like destruction?
Why is stealing wrong for me?
It's wrong because it's objectively wrong. It is wrong because it harms. Yeah, it's objectively wrong. I'm an objective moral realist.
Yeah, prove it. I'm a thief. Yeah, I steal from you. It benefits me. Why is stealing wrong for me?
It benefits you, right? You're saying it benefits you.
Mm-hmm.
Does it benefit the person you're stealing from?
Doesn't matter. I don't care.
I didn't ask that. I said, does it benefit the person you're stealing from? Yes or no?
But why is it wrong for me?
Okay, I'm about to get there.
You said it's subjective.
I gotta get there. You gotta answer my question first. Does it benefit the person you're stealing from?
No, it does not benefit. No.
Okay,
no.
so you have a contradiction in your worldview, right? Because what you're saying is,
how?
I'm doing this to benefit me, yet at the expense of another person. So what you're doing is you are asserting.
But why is that wrong?
Well, I'm getting there. You got to wait for me to get there, Hans, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm asserting my freedom and well-being while at the same time infringing upon somebody else's freedom and well-being. By what criteria do you use to say that you have a right to freedom and well-being while the other person doesn't have a right to freedom and well-being? What criteria are you using?
I said it. I use God.
You use God.
I use an objective source. Yeah. Mine is an objective source.
Okay.
You're saying
how are you? So you're saying that
you don't believe in the.
Wait, hold on. You're saying that your God allows you to steal from people?
No, I'm saying.
Okay, we're talking about the example of stealing.
Let me just explain.
Hold on. Let's not pivot.
I'm gonna go to it. Let me just finish my. I haven't responded to you.
Okay, but you're still answering. But you asked me a question. I'm still trying to answer it. You keep asking me questions. You haven't let me answer.
You just miscrewed what I was saying. I didn't finish what I was saying.
Okay, so when I asked, so let's go back then. I asked you, I first asked you, what criteria do you use when you steal? If you are stealing from somebody, what criteria are you using? You're not using any criteria. Okay, so by default, it's a contradiction. Okay, by default, it's a contradiction in your worldview. If you are taking somebody's freedom and well-being away while asserting your own, that's a contradiction. So therefore, that is
that contradiction. You're begging the question.
It's not begging the question.
Argument. You're saying it's wrong because it's wrong.
I did not say that.
You're saying it's wrong because it's wrong.
Okay, that's a straw man.
Okay, well, prove to me why. To me. You said it's objective. Objectively wrong.
I said it's objectively.
Why is
okay,
it objectively
Hans. If you want me to have a conversation
with you, can't agree
that
is objective wrong, brother.
Hold on.
Sorry, brother. I'm in the military. I apologize. I'm in the military base, so you're a few seconds behind.
All right. All right. So because what you're doing is you're talking over me. So I understand. So
I apologize. I don't mean to.
All right. That's understandable. Oh, wait, actually, signal when you hear the end of this sentence.
I heard it just now, yeah.
Okay, you're about 5 seconds behind, so that tracks. Okay, so I consider it objectively wrong because I'm using the laws of logic. Would you agree or disagree that the laws of logic are objective?
Yes, I agree with you.
Okay, so if I'm using the laws of logic as my foundation and my ground, and the pillars on top of that ground are freedom and well-being, then I can objectively determine whether or not something is moral or immoral. So when you are using God as your standard of objective morality, how do you determine whether or not something is objectively wrong or right?
Because it also goes hand in hand with everything that the Quran tells us.
Everything that the Quran tells you.
Let me just.
That's
Well,
our
let me
objective.
just respond to him. Let me just respond to him. Everything that is objective has to be an external source, not an internal source.
Okay.
Because if it's an internal source,
so?
you're saying, let me just respond. Because you're saying to me, it's wrong for me to steal because it harms that person, and therefore it's wrong.
No,
but
that's not what I said. You're straw manning me. That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
Okay, can you re-explain it?
Okay.
Because
so
what you're saying is it's objectively wrong, but then you're giving a subjective answer.
I did not give a subjective answer. I gave you an objective answer. I used the laws of logic, in which you agreed is objective, right?
Could you give me an example, please?
I just did. So what I said was, I use the laws of logic as the ground for my objective morality and on the pillars of freedom and well-being. So what I said was, if you are infringing upon somebody's freedom and well-being while at the same time asserting your own freedom and well-being, that's the P and not P, which violates the law of non-contradiction. Therefore, you have a contradiction, therefore it is immoral. So that falls under
the laws of logic. But let me just add to it. I'm going to use the laws of logic. I want something, I take it. It's now mine. Yep. I benefited from it. That person's feelings doesn't matter to me. Why am I wrong in this case?
Because
convince me why I should not steal.
Well, I'm not going to convince you why you should or shouldn't steal. I'm just going to tell you that you're objectively wrong. So whether or not you decide whether or not that convinces, I don't care if I'd convince you or not. It's objectively wrong. I don't give a fuck if I convince you, because I just told you it's a. Do you agree or disagree? If you infringe on somebody's freedom and well-being, yet you assert your own, is that or is that not a contradiction?
No, doesn't have to be. No.
No, I didn't say if it has to be. I said, is it a contradiction? Yes or no?
No, it doesn't have to be. No.
Why is it not a contradiction? So when you say I assert my freedom and well-being, yet I take away somebody's freedom and well-being, why is that not a contradiction?
Because I'm a selfish being. Therefore, it benefits me.
It's
in my best interest to take away.
That doesn't.
Yeah, it's in my best interest.
Okay, that's a reductio. That's a reductio. Okay, so you're not explaining. You're just saying it's not a contradiction because I'm selfish.
Yeah, can I have
Yes. Hold on, guys. Hold on, guys. My friend Ems has something to say. Hold on, my friend Ems has something to say. Go ahead.
And you said he was ex-Muslim, right?
Yep.
Okay. Why did you leave the fold of Islam? If I can ask.
It doesn't matter, does it?
That's why I said if you mind me asking.
Well, I never really believed. So.
You was never a Muslim then?
Yeah.
No, I was a Muslim when I was literally like 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old.
So you were never a Muslim then? You're just a title.
And you're not a Muslim right now.
Okay, prove it.
Crazy.
How am I not a Muslim?
You're obviously a kafir. You're fighting for a foreign military.
How do you know this is me in a foreign military? How do you know?
From your accent, but sure.
How do you know I'm fighting in a foreign military?
Oh, really? Are you?
How do you even know if he's fighting?
No. How do you know?
First you said you are, and then he said that you can tell by your accent.
I'm not.
He said he was at a base.
I grew up in the UK, but I don't fight for the UK.
Oh, really?
So how do you know I'm
fighting
fighting
for that?
Yeah.
Who do you fight for that?
None of your business. But how do you fight? How do you know that I'm fighting?
You're a kafir.
Okay. He's a troll.
Read to me.
Do you really believe that Im's a Muslim? Ex-Muslim.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
You still read it wrong.
I have a Christian friend.
I didn't, but sure. No. Wait. Correct me. Go ahead.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. I have a Christian neighbor that reads more than Al-Fatiha.
Before you ask your question, please correct Ems. I don't know what the fuck he said, but correct whatever it is he said.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Malik Yawm Al-Din. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka. You did not say this.
No, I did.
Otherwise, you're saying something else.
I did, but you're a dumbass.
You said iyaka.
You
said iyaka.
Nope,
that's something else, my man.
Iyaka. You said وإياك. You don't even know the basics of the. Do you even know the basics of the Arabic?
really؟ طب كمل معايا بالعربي يا كوس امك، كمل معايا بالعربي.
بقدر اتكلم.
قول
كوس
حضرتك.
اختك ليش قاعد بتصير؟
بص
مش
امك.
عيب عليك؟ انا مش بحكي معك باحترام. ليش
No,
قاعد
you're
بتصير
not.
علي؟
No, you're not. And
كيف
also,
ما
you're
بحكي
butchering.
معك؟
You're butchering basic Arabic. You sound like
How am I
a
butchering
Arabized,
how am I butchering
whitewashed
basic
Arab. This is
I'm a white
embarrassing.
word. أنا فلسطيني. أنا من
Okay,
فلسطين.
just because you was
This
born into a
donkey
Muslim
doesn't have a
family,
clue what
that
he's
doesn't
talking
mean you're
about.
Muslim.
I'm not a Muslim, my God.
Yeah, so you
That's
were
the
never
one.
Muslim.
Number
You were
two.
never
Okay,
a
no
Muslim,
problem.
man. That's the thing.
I convince you. I convince you like this.
You're
I
butchering
convince you.
basic dialogue in Arabic.
Basic.
Okay, you can't even read
You
Al-Fatiha,
can't-
but
okay, brother.
this
Okay,
this
no
doesn't
problem.
matter. This doesn't
No,
matter.
it does.
Can I ask
Fatiha
you both a
properly.
question?
If you're going to be dishonest pricks, again, if you're going to be dishonest pricks and say that I read Al-Fatiha
Okay, no problem. No problem.
again,
I
if
give
you're
you
going
the
to say that I read
contingent
Al-Fatiha
Alright.
wrong,
Wallah,
again,
you're a Lebanese
I'll
piece
give
of
you the
shit, man.
contingent
What are you
answer.
talking about?
Okay, I'm going to jump in here.
This guy
Hold
just,
on a
By
second.
the way, I
Everybody,
want you to
okay,
know,
everybody
Em
needs
is
to
just cussing
everybody
in
needs to be
Arabic.
quiet, please. Everybody needs to be quiet, please. Now I heard one of you two call M's a piece of shit. Did I hear that right?
Because he's
Yeah,
cussing in
yeah,
Arabic.
that was me.
You don't know,
Okay.
but he's cussing at you.
I did.
Okay,
I did,
so
yes.
And I'm asking him, why is he cussing at us?
Hold on a
We
second.
haven't been rude
Is
to him,
you
so
two
don't
are
be rude to
dishonest
us.
pricks.
Host,
on
you
a-
didn't
hold
hear
on a
what he
second.
told us in Arabic.
Hold on a second. If that's the case, all right, because here's the thing: does your Quran allow you to call people pieces of shit? Please,
yes.
please point out.
Oh,
Please
really?
point out in the
Really?
Quran. Yeah,
What does
please
Allah
point out.
say?
Please point
If
out. Please point out the surah
Yes.
where it says you're allowed to do
turn the
that.
other cheek, my brother. This isn't turn the other cheek.
Okay, then
It's
point
good
out
to
this.
repel evil with good.
Point out the surah where
Let
it
me explain.
says you can say the
Okay, 1
words
second.
"you are a piece of shit."
It's not going to say that. It's not. It's not
Okay,
going to say that.
so you're reading into
What-
the
what
you're
I'm
reading into the
saying is-
Quran.
Yeah, my man.
So what does
No,
what does
it's
the
not. So let me
Quran
explain it.
what does the
If-
Quran say about your
Host-
behavior, sir?
If he asked, if
I just said, I'm just trying to explain it to you.
Trust.
Okay.
Read the 6.
host, give me a
If he's
second.
advised-
If he
if he's
curses
advised-
your parents,
Read.
What will you
just a
say?
second, just a
Okay,
second.
I gotta mute
Yeah,
you guys.
because- exactly.
Hold on a
read
second.
6108. Go ahead.
6108. Okay,
Uh-huh.
we'll bring up
And he
six.
was fighting for a foreign military. He said he was from Palestine. And he has a foreign accent and he's based in the UK. What military would he be fighting for? The Palestinian Liberation Force?
Yeah, I don't think he would be. And then if he was, what would he be doing in the UK, right?
Uh-huh.
So Quran.com 6108. Is that what she said, right? 6108?
Uh-huh.
Surah Al-Anam? Why is it doing that? Okay. Okay, there it is. All right. So let's take a read of this. All right. Can everybody see that? Let me adjust it a little bit so we can see the Arabic and all that stuff. Okay. Can everybody see that okay?
I have the chat covering it, but yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, let me move that around. I'll just cover my face. Okay. Okay. So okay, guess you can unmute now. I did have to mute you. Oh, they left. They left. They ran. They both ran. How about that? Oh man, this was like a special one, Ems. I had two of them.
The thing is, like, I literally read it perfectly, and then he insists that I read it incorrectly.
Yeah. This is what you read, right? 6108? Is that what you read? I was going to go into his behavior. Yeah. Because I had a list of surahs pulled up that I researched on behavior, and they're not supposed to be calling anybody pieces of shit.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because the Quran tells them that if they do, I might insult Allah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think we were about to call them out on their behavior, and that's why they ran.
Mhm.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. It's always like the first or second guest that comes into my live that always is like just they're just bad behavior people. They have poor behavior. So that's just that's unfortunate. Man, that was quick work, sir. Well done.
I mean, it wasn't anything. They just again lied.
Yeah.
Like they're saying that I'm saying it wrong when they cannot even speak basic Arabic.
Yeah.
He sounds like, you know, when an American guy takes like a Spanish class and then he tries to speak Spanish. That is how they sounded.
Yeah, it sounded like gibberish when he first started talking, you know? It sounded nothing like what you said. And I'm not just kissing your ass just because I like you, but it sounded way different. And
Yeah,
if
he
you
sounds
guys,
like he's never been in the Middle East. So
yeah. And if you guys aren't sure, you can always go back on the recording on YouTube and you can listen to it again. It sounded pretty bad, but it didn't sound anything like what M said. So I totally agree. But man,
I'm
that
gonna
was
be
fun.
dropping though.
All right. Well, thanks,
Have a good
Ems.
day. Bye-bye.
Have a good day. So that was lovely. Can we mute JJ? All right. So let's not do JJ bilingual. Let's not do the all right. Yeah, we're gonna mute you for we'll just mute you for about 5 minutes. Let's not spam and let's not use caps because it's really hard to read the chat. All right. It's really hard to read it. But I got you. Okay. Meep. It's good to see you. Yeah, it's been a while. Got you. I got you, chat. So welcome in. Wow, that was a pretty exciting start, huh? Sounded like Andrew Tate to me. Yeah. Believers do tend to have bad behaviors. Yeah, so we were about to call out their bad behavior, and that's when they ran. You know, the funny thing is that the first guest was actually pretty polite, but he turned sour when his friend came up. Well, I'm glad you're here, Meep. And welcome in, Emily Davidson. Glad you're here. Stubbs, I'm doing well. How are you? It's good to see you as well. There were Muslim false teachers and teachings. Yeah, we were about to get them on their behavior, number one. And then the whole thing about morality, which is funny. He was criticizing my morality and at the same time can't even follow his own God's morality. So... which I just exposed as a contradiction in his worldview. I already exposed that. So, for gratitude, my goal is to get evidence that God is real. I mean, that's what the question says right above my head, right? Yeah. So, anyone who wants to join, go ahead and join. So right now, I don't have anybody in the guest queue, and so you're welcome to come up. New job says no phones, but I'm sick. So we get a Trust Live. Yeah. And now I'm on YouTube as well. So if for some reason, if you are on TikTok is not allowed at your work, you can watch me on YouTube. I am an atheist and I have objective morals. When I say I'm an atheist, people assume I was religious at some point. I never was, even as a child. You remind me, yeah, there's a lot of people I know you've got, Mail, who never have been believers. Never believers. I'd say it's like 1 out of every 5. Oh, Grandpa. Bruh, you don't even have to ask. Come on up. Let's get up here, Grandpa. How you doing, brother?
Hi, how are you? I'm doing okay. How's your day going?
Oh, it's going well so far. Going well. I'm doing well.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I was just curious because I'm just like, I always watch it. And I'm like, always want to, kind of guess a little bit, but I'm like, nah, he's too smooth. I can't keep up. I can't
Oh,
keep
you
up.
too
He's
kind,
too
man.
good.
You too kind, man. You too kind. Nah, you can more than keep up. Matter of fact, I might be having trouble keeping up with you. So no, it's all good. No, it's
To
yeah,
be honest,
it's an honor.
I stay out the book a lot.
Yeah? You stay out the book?
hmm I usually just mainly deal with the believer's morality when it comes to the
Oh.
gods and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah. Morality is fun to talk about. I think it's fun to talk
Indeed.
about. Yeah. Yeah, I was just, and it's just funny because like the two guys that were just up, it was just like, how are you going to tell me it's not a contradiction when you just say, well, because I'm selfish? That just makes no sense. That makes no sense. Makes no sense at all. But yeah.
The funny thing about it is that I'm trying to actually brush up more on the Quran as well because I don't have a former Christian background, as a lot of believers did assume at first. I actually do have an Islamic background, but I didn't take my time to actually get that deep into the book.
I got you. I've read it twice, but I will tell you that, since Ems has been coming up here, I've learned so much just from M's being up here on my lives, you know, cooking other Muslims, than I have all the time I spent reading it by myself. I mean, I found things in there that were like questionable, but then after he explained it, it made a whole lot more sense, like why it doesn't make sense. But yeah, but that's actually really cool though, that you're, you know, that you're doing that. Props for sure. It took me a long time to get through the Quran. Yeah.
Oof, that yeah, for sure. It's so many, like, I believe if I'm correct, there's different interpretations and like different ways that it goes, and it's like it's more, I would say it has a better layout than the Bible does, for sure.
Oh, it does. It's a bit of an easier read. I think that the difficulty for me was that I think what it is like it just reads like fiction to me. Like it was easier to get through in one sense, but then on another sense, like it was the same as like reading the Book of Mormon. I don't know if you ever read that. And the Book of
No, I
Mormon,
haven't.
yeah, I mean it's only like that thick, right? The Book of Mormon, it's not that thick. It's like maybe 300 pages, maybe 350. I mean, that's pretty big, but compared to the Bible, it's nothing. And that was really hard to read because it's just all claims on top of claims. It's like it just reads like a story, and not a very good one at that. And then that's kind of how Islam is like. It just all of it is just like, you know, I'm the most, you know, Allah's the most merciful one. You know, I've revealed all this stuff. You know, how do you doubt that he did this? And if you don't do that, you know, all that stuff. It just wasn't too interesting. But
I like to say that when you like, what I like to tell people sometimes is that when you kind of like separate the piece between the book and the culture, you would kind of see a whole different beautiful light.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, the culture, I'm good with the like Middle Eastern culture, man. I love it. And but yeah, I could do without the belief though. King Mateo, how you doing?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thanks for waiting. Appreciate you. Yeah.
Nah,
Okay.
you're all good.
Right on. Are you at least 18?
Yes.
All right. Which God do you believe in? The God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran?
I was hoping it was okay, but yeah, no, Bible.
Okay. What's your best evidence that God is real?
So I actually had, if it's okay if I lead with a question. Um, my one question and like my main theory was, because I grew up incredibly like religious, right?
Mhm.
I would go to church every single Sunday and stuff like that. And as I feel like, I mean, from biblical times all the way up until now, the Bible has completely shifted, and especially what it's used for and what it means and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I won't stay on for long, but my main point, I guess, is that I have kind of stopped, I guess, as a whole, believing in what the Bible, I guess, preaches and what it stands for. Because, I mean, I heard you say earlier that it comes off as like a fairy tale. And I mean, I when I first grew up, I read the version of it with pictures in it, so it totally came off like that to me. And then the full book definitely. I mean, it does seem like a very fake, but like also in a way, I kind of lived my life based on the Bible as a set of rules to basically live your life off of. Um, there was no way for me to fully prove, I guess, at the beginning that there was any God. And the more that I've seen the humanity change and what it uses the Bible for, I feel like the more I've kind of turned on, it's not fully for, it's not fully like, it's not really used for as many positive things as it could be.
Yeah,
But I
got you.
still would argue that believing in, maybe not believing in God, but there are a lot of benefits from taking teachings from any of the books, not just the Bible, but also even the Quran, and applying them to your daily life, which I guess as of like a couple weeks ago, since I no longer am like bound by going to church every single Sunday and stuff like that, is
Yeah.
more of what I've been doing. I don't think, I think I'm starting to become in the same boat as you, where I won't ever actually get proof. And to be honest, I don't think I'd want it. I think
got you.
I'd benefit a lot more from believing that there's too much hate now that stands from a book that was meant to spread love and stuff like that.
I got you.
And,
Hold that thought, Mateo. We got something special coming up. All right. So you guys know what happens when Hammy enters the chat, right? Hammy, how you doing?
Oh, well, I'm doing fantastic. And I bet all you boys and girls out there of the kingdom of Hamathy here have,
From the kingdom of Hamathy.
I've wondered, what, King Hammy, what have you brought us to read to us
What have
about?
you brought us?
And, well, King Hammy, well, he's got nothing. He's got head empty.
Okay,
no
that's
notes.
cool. Well, think of it this way. I made up for having the muted entrance song, and I just played it for you today. So
there we go.
That's all
and
good.
You know what? I will search the repertoire that is my bookshelf, or the repertoire that is the internet. And I will find something good for you to read to you. So that way, I am still a law-abiding citizen.
All right. Oh, the other mic has issued a challenge. It says the referendum demanded the full song. Now, that is beyond my memory. However, we may have to have like a hearing about this and like a full formal court hearing about this. I may have violated the law. But we already have corruption in our midst.
We have corruption in our midst.
I'm not complying with law.
The kingdom of Hamelot will not stand for corruption.
Will not. Oh, we have somebody with a criminal justice degree too. Oh, Jesus. Oh boy, this could get really official. This could go bad. Well. All right. Well, why don't you look for that reading, and then we'll get back to King Mateo here. How's that sound?
That sounds fantastic.
Fantastic. An absolute kangaroo court, I tell you. Yeah, that's probably how we do it here, other Mike. All right. Sorry, King Mateo. All right, continue.
No, that
on.
was awesome.
Pick up where you left off. Yeah,
that was great.
Okay, so what we do, just to fill you in, what we do is we do have a law in this live, and the chat voted on it, that anytime Hammy comes into the live, he's got to read something, and I got to play royal entry music every time. Now, there's a challenge from the chat because somebody's saying that I have to play the entire song because I've only been playing like a small snippet. So I might have violated law there, but that's neither here nor there. But just keeping you up to date. So go ahead, continue.
Alrighty. No, so I just feel like would you be able to see that there are definitely benefits if you take like bits and pieces from each book, I guess, not just like the Bible, but other books, and focus more your life off of like those, just kind of like basing your life off of things that doing the right thing for others and things like that. And you can exclude whatever you want from the book. I don't think any genuine person lives their life believing in the Bible and God and does every single thing based off of the Bible. I mean,
I got you.
I listened to a song a little while ago from an artist that I like who's a Christian. And he made a point of saying that it seems like people use Christianity a lot to hide a lot of things. And because of the fact that they believe God will forgive them for everything, it makes it a lot easier to be genuinely horrible people.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah, I've seen that happen a lot, and I've seen a lot of things that switch up, but I would genuinely believe that if you can find peace with maybe even figuring out how a lot of people find peace in like, I guess, like an afterlife and stuff like that and things, and not really, having more of a certainty of what will happen next.
Right.
The same way some people take peace in not knowing. So I don't really have like a strong conclusive argument, which is why I'm not going to take like up a lot of your time, but I just want, I hope that, if you genuinely find more peace being an atheist, I think that totally makes sense to me. I happen to find more peace myself being, having some like, grip on religion, even if I slip a little bit of that grip on reality, it keeps me grounded and it makes me happy. And I think for some people it works for them, and for other people it doesn't. As long as you're not hurting anybody, I say that everybody should be able to believe in whatever they want to believe.
I definitely agree. I fully agree. Yeah. Although there's a small part of me that will want to say, and I think this will be a much more casual conversation if part of me, because there is a part of me that believes, well, we should believe in things that have a good probability of being true, right? And we determine the probability of something being true by the evidence that it has that it is true, right? And so if that's the case, and if we don't have evidence of something being true, to me, but see, this is just personal preference at this point. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not criticizing anybody that doesn't agree with me. I'm just saying, for me personally, I got to have evidence for things that I believe to be true. And I try my best, and I've gone through like as many beliefs as I can think of that I have. And I went through and asked myself, is there evidence that this is true? And the ones that didn't have evidence, I said, okay, well, I'm gonna throw those to I don't know. Either I don't know or I don't believe it. I did a reassessment, and so those got shifted, and then the things that I do believe in, as far as I can tell, because I haven't, because sometimes I come across a belief that I haven't thought of, that I didn't remember, haven't thought of, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. I do believe this now. Well, is there evidence for it? And I'll do like an inventory. But as far as I know, all the beliefs that I have some type of evidence for it, like factual evidence, you know what I mean? Like a factual data point behind it. And on the ones that don't have any of that, it's either I don't know if it's true or I don't believe it. One of the two. So
would you say though that I guess if you look at the Bible as a whole, for example, and you look at it and you're like going off of things that are true, right? I feel like if you take it as a whole, you would just kind of be like, okay, well then there's not really enough evidence here, right? And I feel like a lot of people I feel like that kind of does work to look for evidence, but I do believe that the whole point of the Bible and everything and why people believe in God is that element of faith, right? And you take faith off of things without evidence, right? If you have faith that you'll pass something or faith that you'll succeed in something, right? You don't always have to have evidence to back that up, but that is just the belief that you could do that. Now, it's something so extreme, I would argue that there is evidence that taking certain parts of the Bible and applying them to your own life is beneficial, like being kind to people and stuff like that. But I would argue that yes, the whole like scene of God and the Bible as a whole, that it would probably be best for people to base most of their things on facts and things that you can fully take together, which is why I choose, and I'm definitely in the minority here. I choose to believe in parts of the Bible that I know will factually benefit my life.
That will benefit your life.
Parts,
okay.
Yeah. And not parts of the Bible that I can't prove. But I have taken parts of it, just like it's basic stuff that you kind of learn as a kid. But when you have like a story to base it to and be like, this does impact me in some way, and it makes you feel good inside, then that is, good. And whether or not God has any play in that development of that person, knowing that the existence of something helped further your development as a good person is more than enough for a lot of people. But I do believe, and I'll say it again, I do fully believe that, I'm a very like political person, right? And I have friends that believe completely separate politics than I do. And I have friends that believe in completely different religions than I do, and I just believe that that is the way that the world should be, where people can have conversations without things getting nasty or ugly, and people can talk about things, because even if you don't agree on God, you may find other common grounds and stuff like that. And I guess my biggest fear is that the world is turning too much to where everybody has to agree with everybody on everything, or it seems like people believe that they agree on nothing. And I just feel like, so I wanted to reiterate that faith that I have by joining today and seeing if you can maybe see that there is still that bit of benefit sometimes from taking the lessons and not the whole story.
Now, how then, because you said that you take bits and pieces. So if there
Yeah.
were that benefit you, if you were to find these other bits and pieces elsewhere, like in, even maybe in another religion, or say like in philosophy or reading up on ethics, secular ethics, would that change your mind about the belief?
I think that when it comes down to things being in like other books, and not really having the whole like strength of God as being the presence, but just like the same ways of ethics, I would just say that I think it's incredibly strong to have. Um, I think it's incredibly good to have a belief in ethics as a whole. I just think my point of having the Bible as well is just the strength of being able to be, because you don't. I mean, I can't really name very many ethics books, but I mean, I could go all the way back to fairy tales and find plenty that have like a moral of a story that involves
Yeah.
ethics. But I think part of it is nobody really gets together for, the Church of Little Red Riding Hood. So it's like very important that you can.
I'm starting up the Church of Beowulf myself, so I mean,
That sounds incredibly intriguing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, that's true. The Little Church of
So it
Little
is
Red
kind of
Riding
nice.
Hood.
It is kind of nice to join a group of like-minded people that all celebrate ethics. If there was another way where people wanted to just get together and talk about ethics and how people's lives are changing and improving, that'd be great. I think that would be incredibly important for people. And I just look for more of a community aspect and a community aspect where people want to get together and people want to like talk about how things in their lives are improving. I like am somebody who really heavily struggles from like depression and other mental health issues. So sometimes me just hearing other people doing better in a community sense like that is very helpful for me, especially
I
if they
agree.
have like something to pull from. So again, I'm not even gonna argue the fact that God exists, but I think that good in humanity is still something that is very powerful and still is maybe an effect of those teachings that then got passed on to other books.
I got you. Okay.
So
And
that's really about it, honestly.
all right. Well, hey, Mateo, I appreciate you coming up. Thanks for sharing your thoughts.
Of course. Have a good day.
All right. Have a good day. Appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
All right.
King Hame has found a reading.
Oh, well, King, please.
Yes.
Share us your reading.
This is the reading for the day. Boys and girls of the kingdom of Hamilton. Or, no, Hamelot, that's what it was. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles, from her beacon hand, glows worldwide welcome, her mild eyes command. The air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep ancient lands your storied pomp, cries she, with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teething shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. The New Colossus by Emma Lazarus. And this is what is carved on the Statue of Liberty, which used to mean something.
Very nice. Very nice. Yay. All right. We have met the statutory requirement. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for that, Hammy. All right. So let's bring up our next guest. Okay. As soon as my little window comes up. Okay. All right. Let's bring up our next guest. How's it going?
How's it going?
Good. Can hardly hear you. Can you speak up or move close to your mic or
Yeah,
something?
how about now? Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better. All right. All right. For TikTok purposes, how old are you?
I'm 27.
All right. And which God do you believe in? The God of the Bible, the Torah, the Quran?
Yeah, the God of the Bible, Christian Bible.
All right. And what's your best evidence that God is real?
Well, there's a lot, but I think probably the best evidence is the fact that without the Christian God specifically, you couldn't ground or justify or even have knowledge or make knowledge claims.
Okay. Now that's a statement. Now, how's that evidence though?
Well, because you wouldn't be able to it would be impossible to ground any kind of knowledge whatsoever without specifically appealing to the transcendental necessity of God himself.
Okay.
Well-
and what's your evidence of that?
Well, the fact that we couldn't even predicate without being able to appeal to God. It's
Okay.
like saying
That's
we
yet
couldn't be
another
able to
claim. How do you demonstrate that?
Well, let's say for example, let me see if I can give you an example. The laws of logic themselves, they require transcendental categories that only the Christian God possesses.
Okay,
Wait,
that's
what?
another
without
claim.
appealing to that,
That's another claim.
right?
though.
Well, yeah,
That
but
is-
how else it would be? Well, the fact that it's impossible to be able to prove it any other way is what I'm trying to say.
Well,
Right.
well, then if you can't prove it, then it's not evidence, right? If you can't
No,
demonstrate
what
it,
I'm saying
it's
is
simply a statement.
no. What I'm saying is you wouldn't even be able to predicate anything without God. It'd be impossible to do so.
Right,
So
but that's another
basically, you
statement.
speaking, right?
Yeah.
Well, you
Another claim.
being able to, you essentially speaking is essentially what you're doing. Is you? How would I say? Well, I guess right now at this point, I guess right now we'd have to determine what do you consider as valid evidence.
It's a dictionary definition.
What would you consider as? I mean, because there's many forms of evidence. There's physical evidence. There's logical evidence. There's, I mean, I don't know what evidence you're appealing to.
Okay. Available body of facts or information indicating whether belief or proposition is true or valid.
Okay, and what I just basically said would be evidence.
No,
No.
those are statements. Those are claims.
Right, and those
That's why
statements
yeah, so you made some propositions. You stated some propositions, you made some claims, and I'm asking how do you know those are true?
Because without the Christian God specifically, it'd be impossible to know anything, and the only way we able to know
That's
is
That's another
claim.
that's another claim.
right.
Yeah.
I guess essentially it's going to be through his general, natural, special, and unique revelation.
Okay. General, natural, special, and unique revelation, and that
Yeah.
revelation is subjective, right? Because not everybody gets that
No.
revelation.
No, everybody has a revelation. That's general. That's his general
Oh, it's-
revelation.
it's
you
the
have it as
Bible.
well.
It's the Bible. That's what he's saying.
No. The Bible would be special revelation.
Oh.
Okay, so
then what's
what revelation are you talking about then?
Well, right now the revelation that we're all using would be what we call general revelation, the ability to be able to even make any knowledge claims.
Okay. And
So
how do we know
that's-
that's revelation? Yeah.
Well,
Because that
that's
means
because
it was revealed to us. So how
Correct.
was that?
Yes.
So how was it? So how do you know it was revealed to us instead of just it being discovered? That we
Well,
discovered it
because-
or we invented it? You know, how do you
No,
make those distinctions?
Well, the thing is, you can't discover. How would I say? You can't create knowledge itself or any kind of knowledge claims. You can only be discovered, and it's only discoverable through God's divine revelation.
Okay, I
That's
got you.
the claim restated again, though.
Yeah.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. All knowledge at the end of the day is actually revealed. There's no invented knowledge. It's all revealed, and only through God's divine revelation are we able to even have the ability to have to make knowledge claims or even have knowledge.
Okay.
This
So
I mean, I guess the best way to put it. I mean, I'm just
how
going to
is
use a
how is
very,
everything revealed? Yeah, I'm that part. Because that means that there's an agent somewhere that's like pulling back a curtain or something like that, saying, "Oh, it's right here," and that we just stumble upon this stuff. So, but that's
no,
not.
you don't-
But
you
that
don't
hasn't been
just-
our experience at all. Like science didn't reveal anything. We discovered things, and
how did science discover anything?
through the process of like the scientific method, which is like observation and experimentation and stuff like that. So,
And does the
and finding
observation-
patterns. Yeah.
So how
finding
do you
patterns.
use the scientific method to discover the scientific method?
You don't use the scientific method to discover the scientific method. I never said
So
that.
you can't.
is
Okay,
the
so how do you
scientific.
know
hold,
you're-
hold on. The scientific method is a tool that we've
Yeah,
come
it's a
up
tool.
with.
Yeah, it's a tool that we
Right.
developed. it
Correct,
wasn't-
correct. And how did you develop the tools for the scientific method? Is what I'm
Trial
asking.
and
Because Yeah, so basically what happens is like we observe things, right? And we say, huh, that's funny.
Observation. I'm sorry, but observation doesn't get you knowledge.
Well, yeah, the thing is you're taking this one piece at a time. I'm getting
Yeah, I
like
disagree
this
with
is
that.
an actual long thing, right? So we observe something and we say, huh, that's funny that it does that. I wonder why it does that. So then you go and you keep on testing it. You figure out what makes it tick, what makes it not tick. Like you go through this whole entire trial and error phase of going through this. Hey, this is what happens when I do this. This is what happens when I don't do this. And this is what happens whenever nothing gets done, right? And then you keep doing that. And so over time, what we've discovered is that this is the process we've been doing, since we started doing what we now call science. And so they said, hey, let's create this part is part of the method for science. We have the observation, we make hypotheses, we test them, and then we go on about that. And then they just formalized it like years and years and years and years later.
Right, Ron, I understand that what you're doing is appealing to sense perception for knowledge, but sense perception doesn't get you to knowledge.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm asking you what essentially would have been. So essentially, you need an ontological status for any epistemological, metaphysical, and ethical claims, which are the basis for all worldviews. And essentially, what I'm asking, what I'd be saying is the evidence for God is the fact that God would be ontologically necessary.
Okay.
For any epistemological claim.
All right, I'm gonna kind of cut to the chase here. Okay, I got you. I gotta cut to the chase. Let's just say you're right. Let's just say God grounds all logic. So let's do an internal critique on this. Let's just assume you're right. Okay. So when you say God grounds all logic, I just want to make sure that I'm like following you here. What exactly are you grounding? So like what are we grounding here when you say God grounds logic? What exactly? Like, what are the properties of logic, or what entailments are you grounding?
Well, let's look at logic. What does logic require? So you would agree that logic would require truth, correct?
Yeah. Logic is truth, like necessary truths, right?
And yes, and then logic would also require for it to be absolute.
Absolute.
Yes.
Okay. Which is just another way of saying a necessary truth. Yeah, because truths are absolute, right?
Truth.
Yeah, so that's kind of redundant. But like, what else falls into logic? Because it's about four categories, right? Well, I think really three, but you're gonna put in four. So there's four categories. So you got necessary truths. So there's three more. So what are the other three?
It would have to be truthful. It would have to be of value. It would have to be meaningful. Have to be justified. Well,
you're describing what the logic is, but I'm asking for the categories.
Okay, so let's look at the categories necessary for logic. So let's see: truth, universality. So logic has to be universal.
Well, you're describing, you're describing truth again. So I'm asking for what the categories of logic are, right?
Are you talking about like the non-contradiction, excluded middle?
Those are the laws of logic. I'm talking about the categories. Like, okay, so you've got necessary truths, you've got propositions, right? That's a category of logic. All right. You've got descriptions of reality, right? So those are the three basic ones, but you're going to put in a fourth one, which is God's nature, right? Because that's logic is God's nature. You would agree with that, right?
Oh, well, yeah, but it's going to be a little more than that. But yeah, essentially.
I mean, let's go ahead and it's a category, so we can't go into a long descriptor, but it's just a category. I'm just calling it a category. Okay. Unless you want to use different words for the category. Think of it as like we're building a spreadsheet, right? And we're putting columns at the top of the top of the spreadsheet. So I can't put like a long descriptor in there, right? You've got to name the column. So that would be each category, right? So like God's nature would be what? What would be like examples of God's nature?
That's like God's nature would be like always 100% truth revealing.
Yep, truth revealing. His goodness, maybe. His omnipotence. His
omnipotence,
omniscience,
right?
His all-knowing, yeah.
If we're grounding logic and all this stuff in there, God has to be never changing, ever, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. All right, perfect. Okay, so if logic consists of propositions, you would agree that propositions require validity conditions, right?
Explain what you mean by that.
It is criteria in which we determine things to be valid, like things to be true. So like if you say like a proposition that Ray Charles is blind, okay, that's just a proposition, right? There would be a validity condition to that, right? At least one.
And
Like,
what do
how
you
would
mean
we-
by the validity condition?
Well, how would we determine whether or not Ray Charles is blind? Like just one way to do it, right? Just hold up something and say, "Hey Charles, hey Ray, can you see this?" No. All right, you must be blind. That would be a validity condition.
Yeah, well, I guess in a way.
It's a very simple example. Yeah, it's a very simple example. All babies are born with hair.
Okay.
That would be like a proposition, and we could do a validity condition on that, right? Just take a large enough sample of babies and determine whether or not they're born with hair. And if we find one without hair, then we can say, nope, that's not true, right?
Okay.
It's not.
Look at this baby, he's bald.
He's bald. So it's a false proposition, right? You would agree with that. So that would be an example of a validity condition, right?
Okay. So what would be your critique then?
Well, I'm getting there. I'm trying to establish like what if logic consists of a set of propositions. Oh, somebody went echo.
My guy, don't skip to the dessert. We're getting through our meat and potatoes right now.
Yeah, we're almost there. So, would you also say then that validity it requires logical relations?
I don't know if I would say that.
Okay, why not?
Let's see.
Like, give me an example
because
of
that would mean that I would have to have background knowledge to be able to determine the validity of the proposition.
Okay, so kind of back to all babies are born with hair. You're saying that you would need background knowledge of babies being born with hair?
Well, in order for me to determine what you're trying to claim, that in order for logic to be real, you would need to have validity for the knowledge claim.
Okay.
Or proposition.
Yeah, so it's a validity condition, right? I establish you use validity conditions to establish if a proposition is true, right? And so and what I'm saying next is that validity requires logical relations. You have to have logical relations in order to determine if something is valid.
Well, so that wouldn't be what I'm trying to argue. I'm trying to argue for the existence of truth itself.
Tracking. Yeah, I don't think you're following.
I'm not following. I don't think I am, because that's not the argument I'm making. I don't know how you're trying to put validity conditions to propositions for it to determine what the truth is.
Well, how else do you determine whether or not propositions are true without validity conditions?
Well, that's the thing, is what I'm arguing is, how do you even have truth to begin with?
Okay, well, that's not my question. How do you...
But that was mine.
Okay, but my point is, you agree that logic has propositions, right?
Well, you can use... Well, yeah, logic would require propositions, and propositions would require logic.
Okay, so logic has propositions, and propositions require validity conditions. You have to determine whether or not the proposition is valid for something to be logical, correct?
Okay. Yeah, sure. We'll go with that.
Okay. And then that means that you need logical relations in order to determine if something is valid.
Okay, we'll go with that.
All right. So now, if God grounds logical propositions, okay, because that's one of the things you said. He grounds four things: necessary truths, propositions, descriptions, and God's in God's nature. So if that's the case, then doesn't logic must already exist to evaluate them?
Well, logic only existed with God.
Okay. So then if
logic
that's the
itself,
case, are you saying then that the laws of logic are eternal, like God?
Correct. Yes.
Laws of logic are eternal.
Laws of logic are eternal and universal.
Okay. And so what makes God's logical propositions valid without already presupposing logic?
What makes God's logic... I'm sorry, repeat the question.
What makes God's logical propositions valid without already presupposing logic?
That's a strange question. I really thought about that.
It's not a strange question, because what I'm doing is I'm exposing your circularity. Because if you're saying
Well, no,
that,
yeah, well, that's
if
the
you're
thing
saying
is,
that
I'm
if
not
God
saying-
grounds logic, and logic
Yes.
consists of propositions, God grounds propositions. So God
Correct.
grounds logic. Logic consists
Yep.
of propositions. That means God
Yep.
grounds logic into himself.
Correct,
That's
exactly.
That's a viciously circular argument, because like, this is my
Correct.
charger. Would
Correct.
this charge my phone? No, it's not going to charge my phone, right? So
I understand.
that's why what you're saying, if God is the ground of all logic,
Yes.
that's circular ontology.
Correct. No, and that's correct. Every worldview at its foundation is circular. That's absolutely correct. That's exactly the Christian.
Well, there's a
worldview.
difference between something
Knowledge-
being circular and some, because yes, you're right. Ultimately, everything is, because like, if you're going with
Correct.
definitions, it ultimately is. But what we're talking about is vicious circularity. That's what we're talking about.
At every foundation, all logic, when it's at its ontology, it's all circular.
Yeah, and so
yes,
what
logic is circular within the Christian God himself. Correct.
okay,
Did you
Logic
hear what he
derives and
said?
depends on the mind of God.
Roman,
right. And so
Roman,
if
did you
God
hear what he
depends on
said?
the mind of God, and God is the ground of all logic, then that means God depends on himself to determine if something's logical.
Correct. Yes.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And if God determines something, if he uses himself to determine if something is logical, then how does God make logical propositions? How does God know that they're how does God know that they're logical?
Well, God is all knowing. It's one of his necessary conditions. He's
Okay,
omniscient.
so he references
you're
himself. Yeah. So then,
correct.
then how does he?
Self-authenticated, self-referencing.
Okay. So then, if he's self-referencing, then how does he know that he is omniscient?
Because he is God. He is omniscient.
Okay. So
That's part
so
of,
again,
that's
this
part
is
of who God
circular.
is.
This is viciously circular.
Yes,
and it's
correct.
but it's nonsensical.
All worldviews are circular at its foundation.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Cool. So, I mean, I'm all knowing, Roman. You know how I know I'm all knowing?
But that's the thing is it's not a gotcha. It's all circular. At
But
its
you know
foundation,
why?
it has to be circular.
Do you know why I'm all knowing?
Now when I ask you, you're an atheist, correct?
Yep.
How do you ground knowledge outside a being like God?
Oh, I
being
do it
like
by
God?
myself.
Yeah, well, how
I
do
do
you ground it outside of God?
I do it with.
Oh, I do it
to-
myself.
I ground it in the laws of logic, because the laws of logic are foundational. So here's the problem. We don't have any evidence that God grounds logic. You're just asserting that. So I don't go that far. I just simply say the laws of logic ground reality, because those are transcendental, and we see that in the fabric of reality.
Correct.
But what you're saying, you're taking it a step further. We're saying, well, no, God grounds logic, and then logic grounds reality. But the thing is that you can't demonstrate that God grounds logic. I can demonstrate that logic grounds reality. I can easily demonstrate that.
Oh, sure. Show me how logic grounds reality, and what do you define reality to be?
Okay, so the law of logic, the law of identity, is A equals A, right?
Right, correct.
Will A always equal A if no minds are there to determine if A equals A?
No, not at all.
How is that? Why not?
Because first off, to begin with, the laws of logic are conceptual and only exist in the mind, correct?
Nope.
Where do they exist outside of a mind?
Oh, in the mind?
Yes.
No, they don't exist. Like I said, they are a fabric of our reality. They're a part of our reality.
Okay. What part of the fabric of our reality are the laws of logic existing in?
It's
That
just the
is not a
same.
mind.
It's the same thing as the laws of physics. The laws of physics don't exist in a mind, do they?
Okay, but are the laws of physics physical?
Excuse me?
Are the laws of physics physical?
Well, let's not pivot here. Do the laws of physics exist only in minds?
No, but that's
Okay.
different
So
from
it's the
saying
same thing with the law.
logic.
It's not different from the laws of logic. The laws of logic exist are
you
part
prove-
of our reality, just like the laws of physics are a part of our reality.
Okay,
So it's the
can
same
you
thing.
point to the laws? Can you point to where the laws of physics are at?
No, we cannot, because it's like saying point to where gravity is at. You can't point to gravity. You can't point to space. It's just here. You can't point to
I'm
quantum
pointing-
fields.
I'm pointing at space right now.
Okay.
What part of space is the question?
So
right?
you can point, but it's everywhere. Just like the laws of physics are everywhere. Just like it's just intrinsic
Right.
and
Now,
it's
I want
intrinsic
you-
to our reality.
So if the laws of physics are everywhere, are you saying that the laws of logic are everywhere as well?
Yeah, they are, because law of identity is everywhere. Okay,
Roman,
look around you.
is a rock a rock?
Yeah,
Is a rock a rock?
Is a rock a rock?
A rock is a rock. It's a physical thing.
That's the law of identity.
Well, okay, awesome.
Well,
so
using the
is
law of
a rock?
identity, right? But we can call a rock whatever we want. The fact that there's an identity is what's in question.
Okay, so
So
are you
the fact that you
saying
can
then,
make
because, okay, so explain to me how a rock ceases to become a rock when there are no minds there.
That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm
Well,
trying
no,
to
you
tell
did say
is
that
the fact-
earlier, because you said, I asked you if A equals A, and you said yes, and I said, does A cease
Yes.
becoming A if there are no minds there? And you said yes. So
No, well,
explain to me, because,
A equals A couldn't even exist without a mind.
okay, so you're saying that a rock couldn't exist without a mind.
Well, there would always be a how would I say it? Now, when you're talking about minds, are you referring to human minds?
Oh,
Because
don't
if we're
pivot.
gonna-
I asked you, does a rock cease to becoming a rock if there are no minds around?
Well, let me go back then really quick, because the answer is going to be no, but there's always going to be a mind. That mind's going to be the mind of God.
Okay,
So
well,
that's-
that's an assertion. That's a claim. Okay, what I'm asking you though is, are you saying that without a mind, a rock ceases to become a rock? That's what you're telling me.
Well, what I'm saying is, without the mind to begin with, a rock couldn't even exist.
Okay, and that's another claim. That's another assertion that you have no evidence for.
Well, that's going to be part of that's part of my worldview, right? All things are created from the mind of God.
That's
so
fine.
That's why
That can be your worldview. I'm just
I can't
saying,
step away.
but that's not evidence.
can't step away
That's a
from that.
claim. So you've come up to my live with no evidence.
See, what you're saying is, I want you to show me evidence that the laws of logic are out there in the ether of the universe and reality.
I just did.
You didn't. You
did.
determined that there was a rock. That's it.
Okay.
Oh, you said that there was.
Okay,
a rock,
again,
that's a rock.
what is the law of identity? State the law of
The
identity.
law of identity equals A, but that's
A
a
equals A.
conceptual-
Okay,
that's a-
so if we replace rock A with rock, does rock equal
No.
rock?
That's not you're having your how is it your equivocating.
Trust, it's been
Kickball.
It
mods are
doesn't
thinking.
imply. I'm not talking about whether you identify the rock. I'm talking about the logic, the laws of logic itself.
Go ahead and take over,
A
Hammy.
equals A.
I got to set up the kickball.
Yeah, so the thing is like, you have yet to demonstrate how a rock cannot equal a rock. Like that was the big thing, is that in certain cases, whenever there's no minds present, does not equal A. And we're trying to figure out, how is it that is the case?
I'm sorry, you're asking me.
Yeah, I'm asking you.
I'm sorry. Go ahead and repeat. You're asking me how it is, but that's not
Yeah.
my argument. My argument is not how to identify something. My argument, the fact that the ability to be able to identify something is only a conceptual. It's a concept of the mind. Without a mind, you couldn't even identify.
So
anything.
again, this is saying that a rock doesn't equal a rock if there's no minds.
Well, that's now we're going into different. How would I say? How do I put this? If there was no minds, would you be able to identify a rock was even a rock?
If there was no minds, I personally
there
would,
was no
because
minds,
I
could you
wouldn't
like-
have a mind.
No, you
But-
couldn't identify it, but that doesn't mean it. That doesn't mean the law of identity ceases.
Okay, and what makes that,
That
law
just
of identity?
because you're conflating mechanism with the law of identity. The law is just descriptive.
All right. So what makes that law of identity real? What's the ontology for that law of
What
identity?
makes it real is that it is the reason it makes it real is because it is foundational. That's what you're asking is, what is north of north? So it's an incoherent question. So
No,
you're
well,
saying
what I'm
what makes the
asking is-
law of logic real? It's part of our reality. So you're asking what is north of north, and that doesn't make any sense.
Well, now you gotta no. Well, this is the thing.
All
You're,
right.
you're throwing words out there. What do
Hey,
you call- what
so
do you-
hey Roman, they voted to move on to the next guest. So come back another day and we can talk more though.
sure.
All right. Thanks for the cordial discussion. Appreciate it.
You got it.
All right. So yeah. So yeah,
I was
rock is
in-
always going to be a rock. One is always going to be number one. It doesn't. Yeah, it's like, how does one cease to becoming number one if no minds are around to see it?
It stops becoming one because my mind is gone. Because I told you, I
'Cause your
ground
mind
my
is gone.
logic in me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the
Ground my
age-old
logic
question.
in myself.
If a tree falls in the forest and no one's here, it doesn't make a sound. That's just the same thing. It's the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Because yeah, tree making a sound, that's the law of identity.
Mm-hmm. trees
right?
falling still make sounds because
Yeah.
even though
Sound is
your
a
ears
lot
are
of
not
identity.
there to hear it.
Yeah. Trees still make a sound. So that's why I'm saying it just ultimately doesn't make sense. And, and I know if there was more time, I would have gotten into like, there was actually more questions. Like I've been putting together all these questions for Phil Bros, especially Tag. Yeah. But it was still a good discussion. The W though, the W was that he was actually respectful. That was the W. Yeah, he was totally respectful. So I appreciate that, guest. Jordan, I appreciate that.
He could have sat there and done like what a lot of Phil Bros do, where he's like, yeah, go ahead and tell me how you ground that. Go ahead. And you're like, dude, fucking calm down. What do you... No, go ahead.
Yeah.
You're just like, what the fuck is this bullshit?
Yeah, like what is this? What's going on here? Yeah, exactly. But it was respectful, so I respect that. So I can deal with that. All right. Okay. So, I honestly like the moral grounding a lot better. It's way easier. The logical one, it's a little bit tougher, but still, I mean, if you just get to the point of calling out its circularity, then it's just done. Yeah. But it's like viciously circular. Yeah. All right. Next guest. Rain, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Doing
I have
well.
one question real quick before we start. Rain, is it chocolate rain?
Nah, man, it's just a random account.
Ah, darn it.
Nah, chocolate. I would mess with Chocolate Rain though. That would be really good.
Who remembers that old song?
Unfortunately, that's not how God designed it.
Okay. All right, Rain. Hey, are you at least 18?
Yes.
Okay. And you're a little bit faint, so if you could speak up just a little bit, that'd be great.
Right,
and
sounds good. Sounds
okay.
good.
And which God do you believe in? The God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran?
I believe in the God of the Bible. I believe that the God, the Quran is a demon. I believe Jesus is the Son of God, came on this earth, died for our sins, and is gonna come back one day. That's my belief.
Fantastic. What's your best evidence that God is real?
Before I start, I want to thank you for allowing me to be on this live with you, and I'm gonna be respectful, honest, and give my clearest opinion on why I think God's real. And I'm not coming here to bash your opinion. I'm coming here to speak. God, my God told me to be bold with my faith and speak to people. So
hey, you're meeting 1 Peter 3 verse 15. We respect that. It's respectful. So no, I'm with it.
Peter,
all right, so I got a question. Do you believe in George Washington by chance?
Oh boy.
I believe
yes. Yeah, we know he existed. Yes.
Yeah, so you base that on what? Stuff that was written, people writing down evidence. Yeah.
Contemporary writings. Yeah, we have a mountain of evidence that George Washington existed. There's contemporary evidence, contemporary writings from George to George, about George, right? At the time he exists, at the time he was alive. We have his DNA, we have his bones, we've got his teeth, we've got all kinds of stuff.
He has ancestors still alive today.
And he has ancestors still alive today. So we have a mountain of evidence that George Washington is alive. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got a question. So like, why is we found evidence in George, how there's been writings and archaeological evidence and and people writing stuff down about what he's done and the wars that he fought, and then you got the Bible and it talks about how a bunch of New Testament authors, eyewitnesses, and the most backed up religion, as in my opinion, Christianity is. That's why I chose Christianity as the son. That's why I believe in what I believe in, because you got multiple authors talking about eyewitnesses seeing Jesus rise from the dead, seeing Jesus after 500 witnesses seeing Jesus after his resurrection.
All right. Let's take it one at a time, Rain. Let's take it one at a time. Yes. Let's start with the witnesses. So the 500 witnesses. See, now here's the thing. With witnesses for George Washington, we have there's many more witnesses of George Washington, but we have a lot of the names of the witnesses because they actually wrote newspaper articles. They wrote letters to and from, to George, about George to other people. And, so we have the names of these witnesses, and they independently wrote things about George Washington. So what are the names of the 500 witnesses who wrote something independent of the Bible? What are their names?
No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the scriptures write down how hundreds of people saw Jesus. I'm
Yeah.
not talking about
I'm
the
asking.
500.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking about the 500
Right.
witnesses that's in Acts. What are the names of the 500 witnesses, and where can we find their attestations, their writings that are independent of the
500
Bible?
Yeah, 500 witnesses didn't write it though. You know, like the author of the scriptures write down how he saw Jesus and how he saw these people, and he wrote it down.
Right,
Not
right.
the
Real
And-
quick,
500 people.
real quick. I have a story that says actually 600 people didn't see the risen Jesus. So does that mean my claim's true? Correct?
So I have a question. Where is that story found at?
Oh, it's an ancient writing that was written around the same time Jesus lived.
And where'd you find this writing at?
Oh, they found it in a cave over there in the desert, over in the Middle East area.
And what desert?
Hmm?
I'm just asking what desert.
Sinai Desert.
Sinai Desert.
Yeah.
Okay, and like, is this thing published? Like, can I view it? Am I
Yeah.
able to view it?
If
Yeah.
you were, would that make it true?
So what?
If you were to view it, if you were to be able to read it, Rain, would that make it true?
Make true what?
The document that Hammy's talking about, 600
Right, yeah.
witnesses
Yeah,
that claim.
absolutely. If I saw it and I read it, and if it was actually, and we don't know if that is a true document though. We don't know that. We don't know. Hey,
Aha! There it is.
Ah.
There it is. Okay. So, and I think to Hammy's point, he's just making a comparison, right? And so, how do we know what Paul wrote in Acts, or maybe even Luke? It depends. But how do we know what was written in Acts? I think it was Luke who wrote that. Is true that they actually saw 500 witnesses. How do we know that's true?
because we have archaeological evidence that backs up those claims, and we've had let's talk about Jerusalem. Let's talk about Israel.
Wait. Hold on.
Wait.
We want to focus on the 500 witnesses, not about Jerusalem and all that. So what's the evidence, or what's the archaeological claim that 500 witnesses saw Jesus?
That's why I was trying to back that up by
Gotcha.
explaining those places. I should have been more clear at that. My bad. So we have statements and places in where Jesus went after he resurrected, and where those 500 people saw him. Well, I'm not going to base I don't base my faith on human seeing. I base my faith on spirit. I base my faith on truth. I base my faith on how say this. And I'm not gonna go long on this.
Well,
so
wait, hold on. We're kind of jumping around everywhere, because we were starting with 500 witnesses, and then now we're jumping to spirit and faith. And so, can we stick to one thing and then kind of resolve that? Yeah. So let's go back to the 500 witnesses. What I'm asking you is, what because you said that there's archaeological evidence that there are 500 witnesses, and I'm asking you what the archaeological evidence is. What exactly is it?
What I'm based my archaeological evidence is the scripture is written. That's what I mean. I don't have
scripture is written.
I don't have I have an eyewitness. I believe that the scriptures right. What the scriptures right is true, and this is the evidence that I base my life on. I don't base my life on, like I said, I don't base my life on eyewitness. I base my life on spirit.
Well,
let me do a comparison here. So the comparison I'm going to put in, sorry, Hammy, I'll let you go after this, but the comparison I'll put in is the Bhagavad Gita in the Hindu religion is older than the Bible. Okay. Now that's a fact, but that doesn't make it true. So I'm not saying that. I'm just establishing like a fact about the Bhagavad Gita. That's the holy book of Hinduism. And there's archaeological evidence to back up the Bhagavad Gita of like cities, of locations, and there's also like they've verified like historical figures that are in the Bhagavad Gita. And so does that make it true?
I don't personally believe in the Hindu religion. I believe that those people did exist. I don't believe that they are the true living God. That's my belief.
Okay, so archaeological evidence doesn't necessarily make something true, right?
It can, but it can also.
Okay, yeah. So it does. I said it doesn't necessarily make it doesn't. Well, let me rephrase it. It doesn't automatically make something true, right?
Yeah, it doesn't automatically make
Okay.
sense.
Okay. So we've got the same level of evidence for the Bible versus the Bhagavad Gita, but you're saying no, but the Bhagavad Gita is not true. So now let's go back to the Bible. So that doesn't necessarily mean, that doesn't automatically make the Bible true. Archaeological evidence. Okay. So now back to the 500 witnesses. Now are you kind of backing off that claim that there's archaeological evidence of these 500 witnesses? Because I think it sounds like you want to go to something else here.
No, I was that was a little statement. I didn't want to make it like a huge thing. I didn't want to make it
That's fair.
my like main claim, like why I believe in Jesus.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
Rain,
Gotcha.
do you want to know why I don't take the account that Jesus rose from the dead, rose from the grave seriously?
Yeah, good.
Yeah. So one of the things that we see is like this here, like rising from the grave, like in the manner that's spoken about in the Bible when it comes to Jesus, like the links that he went to be unalived, right? This would have been something that is so miraculous that it would spread so far really, really quickly. Well, relatively quickly. Like it wouldn't like go as far as like today, right? But like people all over this area would have heard this story, and we would have other people like talking about this stuff. Like we have like whenever major events happen, in one certain part of the area back then, other places would also write about it. People like historians, for instance, from other areas would sit there and say, "Hey, this thing happened way over there."
Yeah.
We don't have that for Jesus' resurrection.
I think we actually do. Actually, I don't want to be like an interrupter, but I'm pretty
Are you
sure.
talking? You're going to bring up like Pliny the Younger and Tacitus and all them, right?
Man, I'm not going to bring up specific names, but I know that we have people that said that these old philosophers and old people, and people back in the day that verified. They're like, yeah, this is true. I mean,
So, like, which French historians, contemporary historians, wrote about this, like during that time frame?
I don't know like specific names, because I haven't really studied that far into it.
Okay.
But I've seen and I've seen writings about it, and but I don't know about specific authors, but I don't remember their names. But I've read stuff about it.
So, is one of them like Josephus? Have you heard that name before?
No, I don't think I have actually. I don't
Okay.
think I have.
All right. So, okay. So it sounds like then, I think you were kind of going down another train of thought here. But so it doesn't sound like then, like archaeologically speaking, we don't have any, because like what we're trying to do is, like evidence. Our good friend Livia of the live, our good friend Livia has defined kind of evidence as it increases the probability that something is true. That's how you know it's evidence, right? So like, for example, if somebody accuses you of stealing a candy bar, Rain, and you say, no, I didn't. And then they say, oh, well, what's that empty wrapper in your hand? That would increase the probability that you stole the candy, right? Yeah. It doesn't out and out say you stole it. It just increases the probability. If it was a Snickers bar you stole and you've got an empty Snickers wrapper in your hand, that increases the probability that you stole the Snickers, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what we're looking for. So we're looking for things that increase the probability that it's true that God is real. And
Absolutely.
okay. So it doesn't look like archaeological evidence doesn't do that, because we have archaeological evidence for other holy books. So that doesn't increase the probability. So what else do you have?
I got a question. So, what do you base your life on? Do you base your life on full proof evidence, like full, like visual
Not
evidence?
100% proof. No, not visual, not not 100% evidence. What I base it on is, like I said, is that evidence increases the probability of something being true, right? And I have different levels of belief, like different percentage certainty of belief. Like for example, the belief that my wife will come home from work today, I'm about 99.9% sure that that's going to happen, right?
Okay.
Because she comes home from work every day. And you know, I saw her this morning and she said, "I'll see you when I get home." And she gave me a kiss and said, "I love you," you know? So I have all this evidence that increases the probability that that's true. Now, likewise, I have almost no belief that my dead father will rise from the dead and knock on my door, right? I don't believe that at all. And the reason why is because I have no evidence of increasing the probability of that being true. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Okay. So based on that, all right. So back to my question to you. So what else? What other evidence do you want to talk about that God is real?
Have you ever heard of the historian writer Tacitus?
Yeah, Tacitus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
if you're gonna, there we go.
he was an early, historian that wrote about Jesus at the 116th AD.
Oh, and just by the way, Rain, you can go research and come back. Just be sure to come back to the app when you're ready to talk. That's all, because we can't hear you when you're away from the app. Yeah, but you can go offline and look at something up and then read it back to us. I'm all good with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, that's fair. Absolutely, that's great. That's awesome. That's great.
I was going back to a little bit of historians.
Yeah, that's perfect. Okay.
So what did Tacitus write?
Yeah. Tell us more about Tacitus.
Hold on 1 second.
I love it when people go off and research and do stuff. I think it's awesome. I think it's great.
Yeah, so here's the thing. So I'm just trying to name some historians that talked about it because I really didn't know specific names. So I was just going back to that claim of what Hammy was talking about earlier.
That's great.
Tacitus was one of them. That's the only one that I looked up and was like, because I was
we'll help you out. Hammy gave you another name, is Josephus.
Yeah.
That's another one. And then Pliny
the Younger.
Pliny the Younger. That's another one.
Yeah.
And then you could probably pull Irenaeus, but Irenaeus came a lot later. So
a lot later,
like a couple centuries later. Yeah,
a
couple hundred years later. So, but that's another one that people pull out too.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead, Hammy.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
So, whenever it comes to a lot of these writers, when you look at what they're writing about, some of them are writing about the Christians. In which case, that means that there's already people who are out there that's believing Jesus rose from the dead. Not that they're not saying that it's true that he did. They're just saying that these are the people and this is what they believe. That's what Pliny does, I believe. And then Tacitus, I don't remember exactly word for word what it was that he wrote, but it seemed to fall under the same lines. And then whenever you have Josephus, for instance, a great majority of what he the details he writes about Jesus seems to be actually added by Christians later on, right? Because there's one part where it talks about how Jesus was a miracle worker who did miraculous things and stuff, right? But whenever you look at the context surrounding that part, he sits there and talks about a great war that happened. Then it says this Jesus guy was a miracle worker who did many, many great things. And then it says, and on to the next tragedy. Well, the one that followed right behind it was not a tragedy. He was a leader he was a teacher who did many, many great miracles. How is that a tragedy? Right? So this modern scholars actually believe that this is an interpolation, which means that later on authors had added that part into his writings. And so then the other one that they have is he talks about Jesus the brother of James. And If I'm not mistaken, that's like the only context we have, which I mean, cool.
He just kind of states it. Yeah. Just Jesus.
Yeah, he just kind of states it.
Now, but now we could then, and this kind of takes us kind of down another road, because we could even grant you that Jesus, the brother of James, was a disciple, right?
Yeah.
Or James, the brother of Jesus, excuse me. Well, actually, it works both ways, but James, the brother of Jesus, was a disciple. So let's just say, because yeah, Hammy's right. You know, Tacitus just says it in passing, basically. But let's just assume it's true. Let's just assume that James, the brother of Jesus, was really a real person. And then let's even give you Peter, because he's mentioned in, is it Josephus or is it Tacitus? I can't remember. It's one of those two.
Tacitus.
It's Tacitus. Thank you. So let's just even give you that, Rain. We'll give you two disciples. Can you, now here's the problem. We don't have any other independent verification of any of the other apostles, any of the other 10, right? Yeah. So if that's the case, how do we know they even existed?
By faith.
By faith.
You don't base your life on 100% evidence. You don't wake up you don't know if you're gonna wake up in the morning. You don't know if you're gonna, you don't even know, like you said, your wife. You don't know if you're gonna see your wife. Maybe
yeah, I hear you. What's the definition of faith?
A spiritual belief in a religion, like a religion base. It's a spiritual belief in a higher power that you rely on. So my higher power is Jesus Christ, the Son of Man, and that's my opinion. Your opinion is
Let me help you out.
Absolutely.
You want to go to Hebrews 11:1?
Yeah.
That's the definition of faith that you know what Hebrews 11:1 says?
Yeah, no. Now faith is the reality of what is hoped for, the proof of what is not seen.
Yeah, substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Yeah. So,
absolutely.
Okay. So when we take that,
can you go to verse 3 on that? Verse 3. Yeah, right there. By faith, you understand that the universe created by the word of God.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what faith is. Believing in the word of God. And that's my opinion.
What it is it's actually belief without evidence, because it's the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Well, see, it's different than comparing it to my wife coming home, because I have evidence that she will come home. Right?
Yeah, but
it's not faith that she'll come home. It's not faith at all. I have evidence because she told me, number one, she'll be home. She said, I'll see you tonight. And she comes home every day. Those are two pieces of evidence that she'll be home, right? Now, it would be pure faith if, say, I hadn't seen her in a week. And I said, she's going to be home. And I hadn't talked to her. She hasn't come by. She hasn't said anything. And I say to you, hey, Rain, my wife will be home tonight. And you say, well, what evidence do you have? Did she tell you? Well, no. Well, when's the last time you talked to her? Oh, about a week ago. And, do you even know where she is? No. That would be faith. You see what I mean?
Yeah, but that's a great point, and I 100% back that point up. But here's the thing. You don't have 100% evidence. You have maybe
90% evidence, right?
No, you don't. Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's why I believe in Jesus, because I base my life on, and I might not have, physical, like handwritten documents in my hand saying, look, Jesus, these are people saying that Jesus is God. But I have faith, and I've seen what is going on in this world. The war in Iran right now.
Let me put some
Tammy, I would love if I can finish talking before, and that's the most respectful way, because I feel like I'm not getting my point across the best because I'm getting interrupted. Okay. That's just my opinion. And I'm not, and like I said, I'm not trying to be disrespectful for anything.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Just go ahead. Yeah, I think Hammy thought you were done, so go ahead and finish what you're saying. But please land the plane. Make it quick.
Yeah. All right, I got it. Absolutely. So, like you said earlier, you're naming the historians, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You said his name was Josephus. I've never really looked at historians. I just based my life on the Bible. That's just my opinion. But you're talking about those people, as like we have no specific archaeological evidence that proves Jesus' existence, but like we have several findings that like support Jesus's. Like historical context. Yeah.
Now, you would agree, though, that existence doesn't mean divinity, right? That doesn't mean that
Yeah.
he rose from the dead and ascended into heaven. So,
Yeah,
you're
absolutely.
saying I have faith that he did that, right?
Yes,
now,
absolutely.
would you agree that other people in other religions have faith? Like, for example, here's an example for you. Have you heard of the Wiccan faith?
The Wiccan? No, I have not.
Okay.
I know.
Oh, yeah. So, well, you'll probably know it like this. The Wiccan faith is it's basically witchcraft. All right. And so
witchcraft.
yeah, witchcraft. So they have covens and they do circles, they cast spells, stuff like that. Well, they have a book of fairies. All right. And they have faith that fairies are real. So does that make it true that fairies are real?
No, because there's probably not that much base like facts towards fairies or whatever. But we have
they have evidence of fairies. They use the fairy ring. It's a circle of mushrooms in the forest. They say that fairies make that. They have they say that there's evidence that they'll find like little wings in the forest. Things like that. So that's their evidence. So but they have faith that these are from fairies. So now you have faith that Jesus rose from the dead, and you're saying that makes it true. So if faith doesn't make it true that fairies are real, how does your faith that Jesus rose from the dead make that true?
I feel like you're trying to contradict of what I'm trying to say a little bit.
No, I'm trying. It's a comparison. I'm comparing, and it's a consistency comparison, right?
So
because, like I said, if other religions use faith, I'm trying to understand from you. You're saying my faith is evidence that it's true, but that means their faith that they have is evidence that their belief is true. So I'm trying to understand from you, how does faith make it true if you dismiss that fairies are real?
Okay, absolutely. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna compare. So I don't know much about the Wiccan faith, but I do know a little bit about the Islamic faith. So I'm gonna compare Islam and Christianity. Okay. So the faith that they have faith that in Allah, that Jesus was a prophet of God, and Muhammad was the last prophet to come. So I'm gonna compare those two. So they have faith in Islam that the word of Allah is the true word, a true word of God. And my belief is Jesus' word, the Bible, is a true word of God. So we have two beliefs. We got two faiths.
Two
we got
opposing
one
beliefs,
faith.
yeah.
Absolutely. So what makes in my opinion, what makes Allah and his writings false and makes me think that Allah is a demon compared to Jesus I'm not gonna say Jesus is like this just like man perfect, because he is, but what gives me evidence to that is the writings of Allah and the contradictions and the mistypes and how Muslims believe that there is only one Quran when in the back of the day they hired a person, I forgot his name, a man to burn all the Qurans that contradicted to the one that he believed in.
Yeah, you're right. This is the same thing.
I'm sure you know that, man, and you have great knowledge, and I respect you so much for having the knowledge, because people come on these apps and atheists, they just have basic knowledge, but I can tell that you really study these things, so I highly respect that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, so you've brought in another parallel example, and then we can even bring in Hinduism, which I alluded to earlier, right? Which I talked about earlier.
Absolutely.
And you would agree that Hindus have faith in their religion, right? In their beliefs.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it doesn't mean it's true, but you would say, but none of those beliefs are true, even though they all have faith. But I have faith, and mine is true, and my faith makes it true. So I don't know if that quite answered.
My faith makes it true. I'm basing my life on how Jesus described, and the authors in the book in the Old Testament and the New Testament describe how the world would be right now.
Okay.
And it perfectly aligns to how this world is right now: wicked, broken, and needing a savior. And that's why I believe that Jesus is God.
Okay.
And that's why.
Okay.
Yeah,
and if that's the case, no worries. So if you believe Jesus is God. But what I'm trying to understand is the things that make Jesus God is the fact that he rose from the dead and ascended into heaven. And you don't have any, and if I'm clear, you don't have any evidence of those two things, right?
Yeah, we don't have any evidence so I'm guessing that, so you're atheist, and I'm not making any claims that you believe, how do you believe that the earth was formed? from matter, energy.
The evidence that we have is gravity. Science, yeah. From gravity.
Gravity.
Mhm.
So the gravity formed the Earth. So gravity just...
We have evidence of that, yeah.
Yeah.
And where's that? Like, I'm not even trying to be like... So, and this is not me coming at you. Like, it might seem like it. I just want to put that out there. Like, I don't come at people like that. I just want to know,
I
like,
know.
where do you find that? Like,
if you, well, actually, it's actually really easy to find. If you just, and I'm not doing this to be snarky, and you know, it's not, this isn't the Google it answer. It is, honestly, if you Google how did gravity form the Earth, you will find, you'll find the basic explanations like on page 1. But if you keep digging, you go to page 2 and 3, you'll actually find the scientific papers that explain how gravity formed the Earth. So you'll get into the really scientific explanations.
So where did gravity come from by chance? Like,
gravity has always existed. We have evidence that it's always been here.
Yeah, so it just popped up out of nowhere. Just gravity was like, boom.
It could not have popped up out of nowhere. It's always been here. Always existed. Never. It didn't just pop up. Like, it'd be the same thing as me saying, if you told me God always existed, and I said, oh, well, that means God just popped up out of nowhere. That doesn't.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say that.
You see what I mean? Yeah, it's not. So it's not this.
Absolutely.
It's just like that, except we're talking about gravity, not God. But we have evidence that gravity has always existed.
Yeah, but we also have evidence that God's existed. So how are we gonna push aside that the gravity part is true, but we're gonna push aside that God is the one that did it?
Oh, well, we look at the evidence. So what evidence do we have? Yeah. Just give me your best evidence that God, well, this is kind of where we're at, you know, because you said, well, we have evidence that God existed. Well, what you gave me so far isn't really evidence. So what?
Well, gravity formed plants and animals and all this.
That's a whole different topic.
That's a whole different thing. No, gravity formed the planet.
But, Rain, you're kind of pivoting.
Yeah.
You're kind of pivoting away from the actual point.
We're kind of jumping all over the place. But go ahead and take us home, Hammy. I got to start the kick bowl. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you'd brought up the fact that that one of the reasons why you would say, like, the Quran, for instance, is not true is because the contradictions within it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that it's like the known changing, right? Yeah. I agree with you about that too. Don't get me wrong. I think that there's a lot of contradictions within the Quran, but I also know that there's massive amounts of contradictions within the Bible itself.
No, that's not true.
That's not true. Okay. When was Jesus?
When was Jesus? One contradiction in the Bible.
You got about 50 seconds, Hammy, by the way. So
yeah. So one contradiction is that in Matthew, Jesus is born during the reign of is it Tiberius?
It's Herod, and then the second one is Quirinius.
Yeah, and it's during Herod, and then in the Luke, I think it is. It's the census is taking place.
Quirinius,
these two events,
or Cyrenius,
during Quirinius. Yeah, during Cyrenius. These two events took place 10 years apart from each other.
Yeah.
So which one was it? When was Jesus born?
They say that Jesus conceived into Mary and talks about it in Matthew and talks about it in Luke. But these are two people.
No. But the thing is that in Matthew, he is born during the King Herod thing because King Herod goes out and tries to unalive all.
It could have happened
newborns.
Yeah, absolutely.
And stuff,
Jesus
right?
Goes away from his parents. Yeah.
All right. Hey, listen,
so then
Rain.
Luke's lying.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Hey, listen, Rain. We gotta move on. They have voted to move on to another guest. But hey, we appreciate you going up. And to Hammy's last point, I actually have a video on my profile that actually explains the Quirinius and King Herod discrepancy of Jesus's birth. So I advise you to go take a look. It's about 1.5 minutes long, so it won't be a long watch. And it talks about it.
Well, hope you have a good day.
All right. Have a good day, Rain. Appreciate the conversation. Yep. Have a good one. All right. So
another thing I was going to bring up, which I was going to bring up earlier, but then he just kind of pivoted away from it. And Cyber pointed it out to me too, and I was like, yeah, I was going to bring that up. Was the fact that he's talking about about the changes with the Quran and all that, but the Bible's changed.
Oh yeah,
several
totally
times.
Has. And Tenebrius, I should probably make that claim. Tenebrius said in YouTube that Trust's wife isn't a supernatural being, and maybe I should start claiming that. I should say,
right? My wife is supernatural.
My wife is supernatural. Yes,
Prove
she is.
me wrong.
She cannot be explained by science, so she's supernatural. Yeah, yeah. But and also to Aaliyah in the TikTok chat, to your point, Mary could have been pregnant for 10 years. Could have been. I mean,
Could have been.
Yeah.
It's unheard of, but you know, if we're talking about God magic, it could have happened.
Yeah. Could have happened. Could have happened. One was a spiritual birth. Yeah.
Oh, wait. It couldn't have happened because of the fact that during the Herod situation, was Jesus already born? Whenever Herod was doing his
when
go
Herod,
on alive all the children.
Oh yeah, Jesus was already born. So it kind of throws that entire narrative out of whack.
Yeah. So he no, I figured it out. He was born, he went back in and was born again 10 years later.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. JLH. My aunt was pregnant for 18 years with 18 kids. That's actually pretty fucking extraordinary. Wow.
Dang.
Wow. Your aunt was busy. Goodness. With kids and everything. My goodness. That is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is wild. You know, yeah. And you know, it's interesting because, you know, at first he did say, my faith makes it true. And then when I pointed it, and then he's like, well, no, I'm not saying it makes it true. Yeah.
Yeah. He was a little bit all over the place, and I get it. Like you're up here for a limited amount of time. You're trying to make as much points as possible, but we can't let you just gish gallop and pivot away. We gotta tackle the claims one at a time.
Yeah. We got to do these things one at a time. We got to do one claim at a time because, you know, if you're just like throwing all of your whole list and you're making like a 10-minute presentation, we can't, you know, we can't
get it
address
all.
Yeah, we can't get it all out. We just be jumping all over the place. So,
and the thing is, the prompt says, what's your best evidence? Not what is your best body of evidence.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of evidence.
Yeah.
It's just your best evidence. Give us one best evidence.
Yeah. Yeah. We do one at a time, one data point at a time. So, all right, let's go to the next guest. Ooh, I might get the 60,000 witness reason twice in a week. We have Jewish disciple who is up. Maybe not. I don't know. Oh, Jewish disciple. How's it going?
I'm here.
All right. Welcome in. Thanks for waiting.
Can you hear? Or am I lagging?
Yeah, we can hear you. I can hear you. All right.
Yes, sir. Am I lagging?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe you are. Well, actually, tell me, let me know when you hear the end of this sentence.
Yep.
About 4 seconds.
Oh.
Yeah, it's about a 4-second lag. We'll see what happens. Let's kind of go with it, but you may have to drop and come back and, you know, deal with your connection, your internet connection. So it's a little bit better, but we'll see what happens.
Okay.
All right. We'll see what happens. All right. Jewish disciple. Thanks for waiting. Just for TikTok purposes, how old are you?
37 now.
Okay. And let's see. Jewish disciple. Looks like Jesus in your avatar. Are you a Christian?
He's a Jewish disciple.
He's a Jewish disciple. Yeah. Which could go either way, but okay. I think it's there we go. He's back.
I just tried to refresh it if it's better now.
Okay. Are you a Christian or are you what's your religion?
I'm a born Jew and now I'm a Christian.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. What's your best evidence that God is real?
I would say you kind of went through this argument already, so forgive me. I don't know if you want to go through it again, but I would say that logic and reason are immaterial and necessary. I know if you don't want to go through it again, we can go through something else. I don't want to kill you.
Well,
with
I mean,
that
it's
again,
your
but,
best one. I guess maybe kind of pick up where the other person left off because, you know, we expose like a circularity to that argument and then maybe help us explain why it's not viciously circular.
So I would say that logic and reason have to be grounded in a God for them to be reliable.
Why?
They're necessary. They're immaterial, and they have to exist in a mind, right, for them to exist. material reality cannot create something immaterial. And I know that you might think that logic and reason are just brute facts of reality, but if that was the case,
How
then
is rock not rock?
so I would say that rock is rock, but the laws of logic and reason cannot exist materially; they exist immaterially. And for them, because you cannot point to where they exist, right? They only exist in a mind, correct?
Disagree. Because I mean,
Okay,
they
so
are
where does
descriptive.
logic
They
and
are
reason exist?
they are descriptive. Well, that's just like saying what's north of north, and the laws of physics don't
How
exist
is
in a
that
mind.
like
Do
saying
they?
what's laws of physics exist in material reality?
They exist in material reality, right? And so
That's correct.
Okay, and where are they?
They are inside material reality.
Where?
That's where they exist. We know them because we observe material reality.
Yeah, and
We
so
know
it's
logic
just
and reason exists because it exists in a mind.
no
So
logic and reason.
whatever.
No, we know. I know the laws because I'm talking about the laws of logic, right? The laws of logic.
Yes.
They exist in material reality as well. Because again, there is the law of identity, right? And where do you apply the law of reality? Do you apply it? Yeah, where do you apply it?
Where do I apply the law of reality?
Excuse me, the law of logic. Excuse me. I said that wrong. Where do you apply the laws of logic? Like the law of identity, where do you apply that?
In my mind.
In your mind? Okay.
So a rock is only in your mind?
Yes.
Yeah. A rock is only in your mind.
Well, my ability to say A is B, or sorry, A is A, or P is P and P is not P is in my mind, right? Without my mind, we wouldn't be able to make that statement.
You assess
but
it
the
in
thing
your
is-
mind. So
You
again,
can assess it in your mind, but the thing is like the rock itself is material. These laws are describing like the relationship between physical things. The law of identity. You see a rock, you know it's a rock. The law of non-contradiction. A rock is not both a rock and not a rock, right? So these are describing things that
Yeah,
we are,
again, but you're just using your mind to describe things in material reality. But
which
the
is
material
you're
reality does
absolutely
not
right.
produce the laws of logic.
Okay, how do you ascertain God then without a mind?
I couldn't.
Okay, so that
because
means
God is a mind, so
okay, so that means God is in your mind then.
that's right. Because God exists outside of your mind, but you wouldn't be able to ascertain God.
Well, how
without
is
a
that
mind.
possible? Because you're saying, well, wait a minute, that's two different things. Because it sounds like because you're saying, well, God exists outside of the mind.
Because God is transcendental of reality, correct?
Well, I don't grant that. You have to demonstrate that.
Well, if God exists, where would he logically exist? You'd be transcendent of material reality.
Still don't
right?
grant that.
It would be a transcendental.
For all we know, God could be in somebody's pocket.
So
I've been checking my pockets for God.
okay, so but would you agree that
I mean, that's just presupposing
that without a mind, the laws of logic. But I'm saying, where would the laws of logic exist without a mind?
They exist in the description
reality.
of-
It's in reality.
Yeah.
They are part of reality. They ground reality. It's
But how would it
foundational.
be grounded then? How would it be grounded?
Well, it's already grounded. It is the ground of reality. So why do you need something to ground logic?
Well, you would need something to ground logic because, in my mind, materially, if we're thinking that existence is pure materialism, then we would have no reason to believe logic and reason are actually reliable.
Okay.
Because they wouldn't be given from something beyond materialism. So if we're existing in a purely material reality, then there's no there's no reason for it to be reliable because
I
it
don't grant that
doesn't.
it's purely material.
Reality doesn't necessitate. Huh?
Yeah, I don't grant it's purely material. I'm a naturalist. But
So
there are immaterial things in our
reality.
reality. You would agree, right? We have like consciousness is immaterial, right? Thoughts
I
are
agree.
immaterial. Numbers are, well, I mean,
I
depends who
agree.
you ask, but numbers aren't. You don't see a number.
Yeah, it's debatable. I mean, there's
It's
different
debatable. Yeah, there's like flatness and
arguments
yeah,
for that.
Yeah, there's different arguments for that, but we would agree. Yeah, consciousness, things of that. Yeah, consciousness, thoughts, those are immaterial.
So
right?
why would these things be reliable tools if they're not beyond? I mean, if they're just
Here,
so you're saying that these are beyond. So you're saying these are beyond material things, but how are they reliable if they're not grounded in something as like God being a mind that produces logic, reason, reality?
Well, because
an organized reality.
Well, because
Repeatedly
A is always A, right? A is always A. And the number one is always the number one. So that's just inherent and foundational. Even the smallest microorganisms use the law of identity on some level, right? Like you can't identify food without using the law of identity, right? The law of non-contradiction. I mean, it's just how we understand what our world is. Like red is not blue, right?
But these are just things. If you're purely material, if these are things that are just existing in your mind, how is it trustworthy that it's actually anchored in reality
verification.
beyond your own?
We verify
yeah, you know what I
things.
mean. You can't.
Yeah, we verify things. Yeah,
it's
it's in my name. Trust but
Yeah,
verify.
but you only personally verify. The rest of it is just. The rest of it is faith. That it's actually that you're actually interacting with a material reality, right?
I disagree. Because I think faith
the thing
is
I see where
when
he's
you have
going
belief.
with it.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this, but I think faith has like is like belief without evidence, right? And so, but go ahead, Hammy. Go ahead and take over.
Yeah. So the thing is like whenever it comes to these, is that they are repeatedly testable. Like I can go outside and find a rock, and I can test whether or not that rock is rock. I can keep going and finding rocks and seeing if they're rocks. And if like there's ever a moment, like the best thing that we can do to see if this doesn't hold up is if I go and grab a rock and it's not a rock somehow. Like I grabbed this rock earlier. I know it's a rock, but now it's not a rock. That would show that it's not reliable. So could I be a brain in a vat somewhere? Sure. But the thing is that as I keep going on using these tests to around my surroundings, they seem to be holding up. They seem to be reliable. So we keep using them until they stop being reliable.
But don't you think that? I think that for me, what kind of makes me go more towards this being just a physical reality that I verify by my interaction with reality is that it's amazing that I interact with the reality where my logic and reason are consistent and I'm in a universe that I can break down into parts that are understandable to my logic and reason. Whereas if I was just pure materialism made, in a physical reality, for my level of consciousness to come to this level where it's more than just survival, right? We have art, we have beauty, we have love, we have all these different things that exist that aren't necessary, right, for survival. These things aren't necessary for human experience, right? If it was just raw material, I need to survive, I need to reproduce.
Well,
for me, that kind of ups the odds of it being something more transcendent that's going on in this reality.
So then by that token, would you say that is suffering necessary for survival?
Is suffering necessary for survival? No.
Yeah. Okay. And yet we still have it, right? And okay. And so then, I mean, logically speaking, why would a God allow suffering if it's not necessary for survival?
So logically speaking, this goes into the argument of free will. in a reality where free will exists, there has to be the ability for all suffering and all this stuff has to exist, because without, like, if we were made in a perfected world, because God made a perfected world where there was no suffering, there was no evil and stuff like this, and we have the knowledge of God automatically because we're made in a perfect reality.
So there's suffering in heaven?
I would say no, there's not suffering in heaven.
Okay, so that's a world with no suffering.
Yeah, but that's after you go through this material reality.
Right. And so what's the requirement to go through this materiality to get to heaven? Why do we have to do that?
Well, by the Christian worldview is that everything was made perfected, and then man was given free will, and there was a choice, and man disobeyed God, which created a fallen state, and then we have to be redeemed, and we will be redeemed by Jesus Christ.
Okay. Do animals go to heaven?
I would say that animals are beings that are not doing anything like sinning or something like that. I would say that
they don't sin.
That they would be, because they're just existing, right? They exist, and it's just a raw fact of nature. I would say I don't know in what form, but I would think that they would be made whole again. I think they'll be made perfected again when the world is made perfected again.
Okay, so when the world is made perfect, but you would agree that they suffer here, and it's not only because of free will, right?
Well, no, it's just that's a raw effect of reality in the fallen world that we live in by our philosophical outlook.
Well, animal suffering, are you saying that animal suffering is a result of free will?
Well, animals suffering is a result of a fallen world where sin and death entered.
World, right? So what I'm trying to understand then is, could God have exempted animals from suffering from the fallen world, like for natural reasons, like earthquakes, volcanoes erupting, tsunami, hurricanes?
Well, I mean, if you're asking a good question, then he could have, but I mean, the reality that we live in, he didn't. The world is fallen. Sin and death entered for all. It's not just for humans alone.
Yeah. So in that case, then what is the logical reason then for animals to suffer because of natural disasters? I mean,
just as a consequence of living in a fallen world that we live in.
A consequence of living in a fallen world. So then that means but that presupposes a fallen world, right? So then you'd have to demonstrate that this is a fallen world.
Yes, I mean that, but that would again be by the Christian worldview. That would say that, once sin and death entered the world because we ate from the knowledge of good and evil, right? The tree of knowledge of good and evil. Now the world exists imperfectly, right? Sin entered the world, sin and death enter the world.
Right.
That applies for all.
How do we know that's true?
So that's just the philosophical output of Christianity.
Yeah, it's a philosophical output, right? But I'm saying that sounds like a presupposition. Like we just assume that happened, but how do we know that happened?
Well, we experience sin and death and suffering.
We experience death and suffering, yet in other worldviews, there's explanations for death and suffering. So how did you determine that it's because of this story in the Bible about eating the fruit that caused the death and that causes this fallen world? Because again, we have explanations for it in Norse mythology. We've got it in Greek mythology. We have it in Hinduism. They call this the Maya.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So how did you determine it's this and not those?
So I determined it's this because I believe that, we agree that Jesus Christ did exist as a person, right? We all agree on that. That's what the scholar.
I'm agnostic to it, but let's just say.
But that's what the scholars agree on, right? You'd be an outlier if you disagreed with that.
Okay, that's fine. So how does Jesus's existence demonstrate a fallen world?
Well, I would say that if Jesus' existence is real, and then you accept the resurrection, which I do, then I would accept the New Testament, and then I would accept the Old Testament, and then the Old Testament conveys that's the story of why suffering and sin and death.
All right, and what is the evidence of the resurrection?
And the evidence of the resurrection would be So first off, you have thousands and thousands of manuscripts that verify. There is textual variance, like you've argued before, such as the discrepancy of Jesus' birth. There are scholarly explanations for stuff like that, but then you have outside sources. You've already mentioned that Josephus, Tacitus. You have embarrassing facts that most creation stories and things like this and God stories, they don't have embarrassing facts, right? You want to put facts in there that would be embarrassing to the authors.
Do
They actually do.
Well, do the manuscripts verify the claim, or do they point to evidence of the resurrection? Because we have manuscripts of of the Bhagavad Gita, right? And
this is pointing to evidence. This is pointing to evidence, right? So we have this evidence. You have the historical writings. You have people such as, for me, this puts me more towards reliable. You have people like Simon Greenleaf, who was one of the founders of Harvard Law School, and he wrote the standards for eyewitness testimony for like what the legal bar is.
Okay.
And when he did, and he was an atheist, and when he did his own personal research on would these rise to the level of admissible in court for eyewitness testimony, he came to the conclusion that they would be.
Okay, so yeah, and so if that's the case, then because well, if we're talking about eyewitness testimony, are you talking about the 500 witnesses?
No, I'm just talking about the Gospels in general.
Okay,
that the what is written in between the synoptic, or sorry, the.
Now, did he come to this conclusion before or after they determined that these were written anonymously?
Did he come after? I mean, he was born in the 1800s.
1800, so it was before, because we came to the conclusion that because the scholarly consensus is, you would agree, that the Gospels were written anonymously, all four. So
yeah, I mean, they're attributed. I mean,
so he presupposed that they were written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, but we've since discovered that they were not. We have no idea who wrote these. So then that would fail that would fail his. What are you saying, that you don't believe that, or you're not aware?
I would have to see the scholarly evidence on that, because the scholarly evidence that I've seen is that we might not agree that Mark is Mark and John is John, but the people who wrote these Gospels were people that were with the firsthand eyewitnesses. From the scholarship that I've read.
They were with the firsthand eyewitnesses, but then you would also agree that the standards of eyewitness testimony in legal circles is there's a difference between direct eyewitness testimony and hearsay testimony. You would agree with that, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so which do these fall under then? Because if we assert that they are written anonymously, I mean, we can pull up the evidence for you.
Well, if I'm an eyewitness and then you write down what I tell you, I'm still giving you an eyewitness testimony, correct?
No, that would be hearsay. That's my whole point.
So you're saying that a stenographer in a law of court is not not writing eyewitness
because
testimony?
what they do in a court of law is they take down the person's name, and then they transcribe what they testify to. Yet, what I'm saying to you though is, who are these witnesses, and can then we independently verify that that they saw what they saw? Because that's what we can do in a court of law. We can do that in a court of law.
2,000 years.
Okay, so then they don't meet the evidentiary standard. I mean, you're using something from the 1800s, but we're in 2026. So
you're saying the Harvard law professor is less
from the 1800s,
who founded Harvard Law, is less qualified than you to say what meets the evidentiary
No,
standards.
I'm saying that you're using outdated standards. I'm not questioning his. I'm saying that you're using something from the 1800s to justify something when we have completely.
So you're telling me that his analysis is contingent on the fact that John's name might have not been John?
Did he know, yes or no, that whether these were written by John, or John, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, or whether they were anonymous?
we were at that time we were already aware that these were written by people who were with the first eyewitnesses
Matthew,
and
Mark,
by the
Luke, and John.
eyewitnesses.
So what is more? Okay, so does an anonymous writing meet testimony evidentiary standards?
Well, it's not an anonymous writing.
Okay, so what you're saying then is that if most scholars state that it is anonymous, you're
What
saying
evidence do you have that it is anonymous?
so you're not
scholars
aware
say
of that. Are you saying that you're not aware of that?
You're saying most scholars say that's anonymous.
I didn't say most.
Okay, so what scholars would you point to?
Okay, let's see. There's Bart Ehrman. That's one scholar. There's I just did this guy the other day on my here. I got to go to my profile and look at my video. I forget.
So you're saying because two scholars.
Did I say
this.
two scholars?
I'm just asking you.
You
I
asked
don't know
me.
why
You asked me
you're
for name.
upset.
Do you want an entire list of people? Is that what you're asking for?
No, but I'm asking you if it's the consensus or is it not the consensus?
It is the consensus. Yes.
Okay. Can you demonstrate that, please?
I can. As soon as you demonstrate that you have evidence that they were written, what is your scholarly evidence that they were written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? So let's pull it up at the same time.
Well, my scholarly evidence was already that the Harvard Law professor who founded Harvard Law School.
He's a Harvard Law professor. He's not a religious study. He's not a theology. He's not a theology scholar.
No, so but he's talking about would it be admissible? We're not talking about theology. We're talking about
I didn't ask you that. I asked you for a scholarly evidence that the four people who wrote the Gospels wrote the Gospels. What is your evidence that Matthew wrote Matthew, Mark wrote Mark, Luke wrote Luke, and John wrote John?
Okay, well, I'll concede the point.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So
that wasn't the point that I was making. You asked me a question of why would I believe this, and I said one of the reasons I believe this is because the guy who founded Harvard Law School, one of the guys who founded Harvard Law School, who made the bar that we still use today for what meets eyewitness testimony, said that these would be reliable and admissible.
And I asked you, is anonymous testimony, does that meet the evidentiary standard? And you said,
does eyewitness testimony meet the evidence? Yeah. And he said that
no. I said, does anonymous testimony meet the evidentiary standard? And what did you say? What was your answer?
No, but you would have to show me that consensus is anonymous.
All right. And we're back to this. And so then I said, okay, I'll pull it up for you. Point. At the same time, you pull up your evidence that they were written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, to which you said
I can go off and I have to look it up.
To which you said I concede the point, right?
Okay. Do you want me to take a minute to look it up?
Yeah. If you you got about 5 minutes 54 seconds. Yep.
I'm curious on how, like, if Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, then why are none of them written in the first person? Like, why is it not saying, then I saw this, then this happened, like that I witnessed it? It's all just kind of like a narration.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of it was written in, and actually Luke even says this isn't direct eyewitness testimony.
Mm-hmm. And so I don't see why hinging that these are reliable based on that is anything.
Yeah, and just by the way, guess you just got to come back to the app when you're ready to talk. You probably know this, but we just can't hear you. So
yeah. And also, you want to come back every so often just because it may drop you out.
Yeah. Okay, so, there it is. Bart Ehrman, Raymond Brown, Graham Stanton, E.P. Sanders. Here, I just found my list. Richard Bauckham. That's 4 right off the bat. And then they all state that it is the academic consensus. So
Richard Bauckham actually supports my position.
Okay. So when he says the Gospels themselves do not name the authors,
Yeah, the Gospels themselves do not name that. I mean, it doesn't say this is the book of Luke. Hi, I'm Luke. It
Okay,
doesn't.
so which
doesn't
one?
say that,
Where does
but
his where does he say? Oops, where does he say then that
But
they
his
were
belief
written
is
by?
that
No. Point out to me where Richard Bauckham says that Matthew wrote Matthew, Mark wrote Mark, Luke wrote Luke, and John wrote John. What? Where does he say that?
no, he doesn't say that. He says what I said is that they were even written by the apostles or the close associates.
Okay, so they were. So he doesn't say that. Okay, so
He says that they were written by the apostles or their close associates.
okay,
which
but he
was
doesn't
my
name
position.
names, right? He doesn't name names.
No, because it doesn't have the names, the names like that.
Okay, and you understand what consensus means, right?
Yeah, I do understand what consensus means.
Got it.
I don't know why.
Got it. Okay. Well, I just
don't
want
know
to
why.
make sure because some
Come
people
on, man,
think
I'm not
that.
stupid.
Well, some
We disagree,
people,
but I'm not stupid.
some people think it means 100%, and it doesn't mean that.
No.
Okay.
And I mean, like, obviously, if we had the answer to this, we wouldn't be having the debate. If it was
Okay.
clear,
So did you find
one way
your
or the other, right?
Okay? Well, did you find your evidence that Matthew, Mark wrote Mark, Luke wrote Luke, John wrote John? Because Richard Bauckham doesn't say that. He just said it's either this or that. But I asked you for evidence that explicitly states that those names wrote those gospels. Did you find that?
I still am not understanding why this is even like.
Well, because it destroys his entire argument. Because if he can't, because we kind of went back to the circle, and
Right.
and I said okay, because he's citing the Harvard law professor saying it meets the evidentiary standard for eyewitness testimony, and then I asked him, well, does anonymous testimony meet that standard? He said no, but they weren't written anonymously, and that's why we're here where we are.
We got Bauckham, we got Bloomberg,
Okay.
Hangel, Pitre. I mean, I got 4 scholars too.
Are they the consensus or are they not?
I mean, you brought me 4. I brought you 4. This is definitely. I mean,
Well, that's four
gonna
among
be
the
highly
consensus.
contested.
Yeah, that's 4 among. It's not highly contested. It's 4 among the consensus. I'm asking you.
Yeah.
So, are they the consensus?
I would have to see it.
All right.
As a matter of fact, Tress had said that all 4 of them had said that this is the consensus, that it's anonymous.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not disputing it's anonymous. I'm all I'm saying is that it's that there's consensus of scholars that also believe that it was written either by the apostles or the
Well, then it's not
the
consensus.
people who were close with that.
It can't be consensus on one side and then consensus on the other side. It's either it's anonymous
so let me
or
see what the consensus-
names of the because we don't even have evidence that any of these people existed. Because then that'd be the next thing I'd ask you to demonstrate, that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John all existed. What's your evidence of that?
I mean, I would have to ask you how how would you demonstrate that Alexander the Great existed?
We can do it by contemporary writings of Alexander the Great. We can do it by, like, his general wrote about him. Was it Aristotle who taught him? Was that who it was?
Yeah, Aristotle.
Yeah.
Okay, and I have Josephus, I have Tacitus, I have other letters, I have the Bible.
And what contemporary
I have
writings do you? Okay, and which of those name Andrew as a contemporary source? Which one?
You're saying contemporary source as a
I'm sorry, not Andrew. That's one of the other apostles. So what contemporary sources wrote about Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John at the time they were alive?
I mean, we
Independent of the
wouldn't
Bible.
point to that.
So we don't have any
I mean,
evidence of that.
the probability of writings existing of the people who were putting together the gospel during the time of the gospel, before even the gospel had spread, why there would be that it would make it today. I mean, that's a very low probability of that.
Why do we have contemporary writings of Pontius Pilate, who existed at the exact same time?
Because in the Roman Empire, you had people who were trained in writing and historians, and they were the people who were trained in doing things such as that.
But they wrote the Gospels, right? So if they wrote the Gospels, that means they were amongst other people who wrote. Are you saying that they were the only 4 people in all of the early Christian church that could write?
No, but these are going to be the writings that made it to us. I mean, the, scribes and stuff like this, these are very, this wasn't a broad swath of the civilization, right?
Okay. So you're saying
this
you don't.
This is also.
Okay. So you don't have any evidence that they existed. You have no evidence.
I mean, I have the Gospels that made it today.
Right. Which you can't demonstrate that they wrote.
Where would the Gospels come from?
They could have been started. They could have been started by anyone. They were written anonymously, and they were pieced together
and you
later.
Just have thousands and thousands of copies of some random anonymous thing.
Okay, so then
somebody.
we have so we have thousands and thousands of manuscripts of the Bhagavad Gita. So that makes the Bhagavad Gita true, right? Well,
but we don't have a figure in the Bhagavad.
You were sitting here listening to this when I debunked this already.
We don't have a figure in the Bhagavad Gita like Jesus that we know that existed.
Krishna.
We just debate whether we don't have historical evidence that Krishna existed in the same way.
Okay. And so,
did Krishna,
but again, you still haven't demonstrated that Jesus was divine. You still haven't demonstrated that. You've just said, I'm just going by the Gospels, which you can't demonstrate that the people who wrote them. You can't demonstrate that. You can't demonstrate that any of the apostles existed. So, I mean, these are all just claims. So you're just stacking claims on top of claims, but you have no evidence for any of these claims. So why should we believe any?
Well, you have early church father writings who also verify this. I mean, years later, but
those are still claims.
Early church,
and they were done in the
they were
done in the second and they were done in the 2nd century and beyond.
So logically, to you, a bunch of Greek Jews in the 1st century decided they heard this story about a Jewish guy who was crucified, and he was a man god, and then they said, "Do you know what? I'm changing my religion.
Okay,
I'm going with that."
Okay,
so you don't think
sense,
that
okay,
you don't think in that sense there was people who was spreading the story of this? There's eyewitnesses.
None of that demonstrates it's true.
Stuff?
None of that demonstrates it's true, and I can demonstrate why. So we have 30,000 witnesses who saw the resurrected Neo. So that makes it true.
You saw what?
30,000 witnesses who saw the resurrected Nero, the resurrected Nero.
Okay.
So that makes it true, right? And they're contemporary.
Do you have billions of people who worship the resurrected Nero?
Okay. So that's an argument from ad populum because now you're saying because millions of people worshiped him, now that makes it true.
I would say that it would raise the probability that in 1st century that I mean,
30,000 people. The resurrected Neo drew an army of 30,000 people that tried.
I don't know why you have to yell over me. I'm just saying something.
That overthrew Rome. I didn't yell over you. 30,000 people that the resurrected Neo drew an army that tried to overthrow Rome. There were 30,000 of them. It got horribly squashed. It got horribly squashed. But what I'm saying is, then there were 30,000 witnesses to the resurrected Neo. Did Nero rise from the dead?
Is that a real story?
It's a real story.
Yes.
So there's 30,000 witnesses for the resurrected Nero.
Yeah. So going by using your logic, that means Nero actually rose from the dead, right?
What's the evidence of that?
You can look it up, but I mean your time's up here, but you can look it up. Yeah.
Okay.
So
fair enough.
So just the last question. So that means Nero rose from the dead, right? If you verify it and it's true that the story actually happened.
That wasn't. No,
all right.
No.
Okay. Hey, appreciate you coming up. Thanks for your time.
Yeah. Yep.
Did he say that because millions of people today follow Christianity, that means it must be true?
Yeah. It was argumentum ad populum. So
all that's proof of is that somebody in power decided, hey, I believe in Christianity, and now I'm going to make it the world's problem.
Well, what's going to happen when Islam suddenly eventually overtakes Christianity, which it's going to do at some point? So so does that mean that all these Christians are going to suddenly convert to Islam because it's the more popular religion?
It must be true because they have more people in it.
Because so what's going to happen? Yeah. So, yeah. So, yeah, I know we were kind of going in circles there, but it's not just 4 scholars that say that. I mean, if you go, Dan McClellan is one who says the gospel was written anonymously. Another scholar, Alexiana Fry, another scholar, another religious scholar, PhD, who says that the gospels are anonymous. I mean, it's just, there's just so many. But to expect me to make an entire list of people, that's just no.
One of the funniest things is that whenever he sat there and he said, "Well, y'all accept that Jesus was a real person," and then he's like, "Because if you didn't, like, you would be an outlier," and I'm like, "Yeah, there was people who believed that like Moses existed and that he didn't was an outlier position. Now it's like now it's the consensus that Moses didn't exist. So like that was such a weird thing.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing. Yeah, it was pretty weird. All right. Next guest. So let's move on to the next guest. All right. We got now 3 people waiting. All right, Davos, how's it going?
Hey man, how's it going? Everything's going well.
Yeah,
Beautiful weather
things are
here.
well. Yeah, appreciate you waiting. Yes, it is pseudo v science. It is working today. All right. Davos, for just to verify for TikTok purposes, how old are you?
28.
Okay. And which God do you believe in? The God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran?
When you say Torah, you're just trying to categorize, right? Not because the Torah is included in the Bible.
Yep.
Yeah, we're just being Jewish people. Yeah. Are you Jewish?
Are you Jewish, Christian, or Muslim? I guess
no,
maybe that's
I'm Christian. By what's being said in today's age. Yeah.
All right. Very good.
Sorry, I always nitpick at
Don't
things.
you get pedantic with me,
technically,
Thomas.
a Jew is anyone who believes in Jesus Christ. Like,
all right.
But not, you know what I mean.
Well, not according to the Jews.
Not according to the Jews, exactly.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Okay. What's your best evidence that God is real?
All right. So there's like a couple of points. In general, how much time do you usually give?
You got 30. There's a timer above my head. You got 30 minutes, but let's just do 1 point at a time. So.
Okay. So this would be hitting at the experience type. I mean, I want to enter into science evidence and then experiential evidence.
All right. Let me ask you real quick on experience.
Yes.
How now every believer in every religion has a personal experience, or we can at least find one in every religion. So how did you determine that the personal experience you're about to share is true and theirs are not?
It's a good question. And just before that, I have noticed in other interviews, in some you kind of cite verses and in others you don't. So I just wanted to see if how open you guys are to discussing the actual context or the actual, I guess, article, in this case, the Bible.
Oh yeah, I love talking about the Bible. I love studying the Bible. Yeah, we do Bible study here every day.
So, every day.
Okay.
Good.
So you pretty much have read the text, is what you're saying?
Yeah, many times.
Okay. Perfect.
Both Hammy and I.
What is your name?
Trust. You can call me Trust.
Trust. All right, Trust. And
wait, hold on. Before we get going, let me just be very, very clear, so that way it's not misconstrued here. I have not read the full Bible from beginning to end. I have read several passages, and I know roughly a lot of the good stories, but for the most part, I am not by any means someone who's like, oh yes, I've read all of the Bible.
Okay.
Perfect.
I didn't know that. I thought you did. All right. Sound like you did. All right, cool. All right, Davos. Sorry for the detour.
Essentially,
all right. What you got?
No problem. So just like as context, everything I believe in is part of learning, what you hear, what you see, and what you experience. So part of that has to do with what I hear, which is also what's written in scripture, but also what's evidential and lived and experienced. So, I mean, the scripture in itself kind of touches on this point on different experiences, Joel 2:28. And it pretty much says different ways that you can experience this God, right? And one of them is dreams, very personal. Visions, right? Very personal. That's kind of like what you're talking about. Everyone has had lived experiences, but there's one that's very specific and falls upon I guess like a position where it has to be proven or disproven, and that one's prophecy, right? So Joel 2 explains that people will have dreams in the future, they'll have visions, and they'll have prophecy, and all these are supposed to be inspired by him, God, or through his spirit.
Okay.
So my experience is the prophecy one, and that's essentially of being told of things that have to be fulfilled one way or another. And that's very personal to each person. Of course, they have to give their own testimony. But then that's where I would say that's why there's a community, right? A people of gathering. That's kind of like what the church is. In Greek, it means the called out assembly. So as you have an assembly of people that gathered and that testify of their experiences. Again, the one that cannot really be proven is the dream that you have or a vision that you have, unless they say of something that has to do with, I guess, something that we don't know about, and then it comes true. But usually prophecy is that. It's always speaking about something that's inside the person's conscious.
Quick question. Quick question.
Yes.
Is prophecy another way to say prediction?
And so no. So quick answer, no, and I'll explain why.
Why not?
In the scriptures as well, and I'll get to the point, there is prediction, right? And we find this in other countries as well. For example, Josh, I think it was, no, not Josh, or Joseph, when he had his brothers in Egypt, they didn't know he was his brother. This is the story, right? And he spoke of a prediction that he had some sort of physical object.
I said
where
it's
he
a
had
form of prediction.
You said, what was your question?
I said is it a type of prediction?
Yes. Okay. So then, yes, it is. It's hard to. So it is a type of prediction, but for different purpose. Because there's something where someone can say to you, like, "Oh, you're going to win $100," right?
That's like saying a boot isn't a shoe because it has a different purpose, right? But they're both footwear. You see what I mean?
What is prediction again? Can you define it for me, just so that I know what I'm
prediction?
What?
Well, prediction is
making a claim about future events.
Yeah, making a claim about future events. So
but
isn't
with
that
certainty,
isn't that what it?
But is that a claim with certainty, or just a claim based off of like statistics or probability?
I don't know.
So
it has nothing to do with certainty.
If we're talking about like predictions as far as like prophecies and stuff like that, right? Then